Wow. The fully armed Hydra elements quickly marched towards the Wayne base. There was a rustling noise on their bodies, which was caused by the loud movement and the sound of their equipment colliding with each other. And the more so, the more proof that these people are well prepared. The flashlights installed on the firearms were swept from all corners of the villa from time to time. 10 people were divided into 6 groups and searched in the manor constantly, never letting go of any corner. Because their purpose is to kill all the living people that may exist in the villa. One does not stay. Boom. A very sudden and violent gunshot cut through the quiet night at the moment, and then, there was a burst of constantly gunshots. A group of 10 people, such a team looks a little bloated in a villa. However, their safety is also guaranteed to the utmost extent. Even if a few people are dead, the remaining people can still form a search and attack without dead ends. However, in less than 2 minutes, the battle was over. The gunfire also ended. A group of Hydra members outside suddenly looked up, obviously a little weird. Solved the opponent so quickly. But they didn't stop, instead they continued to search other places, trying their best to find alive people, but unfortunately, they didn't find it. Except dead man. In the wide garage, or parking lot, the only thing left at the moment is the sound of scared vehicle sirens. On the ground, there were 10 heavily armed terrorists lying corpses. Yes, is it their people? Wow. The HYDRA elements who had just rushed in suddenly raised their guns forward. Unfortunately, they were a step late. Click. Boom. The stamina shotgun roared like a beast, and then one by one tyrannical armor-piercing bullets pierced their heads in an instant. Snapped. A brain burst is more spectacular and bright than a punch to break a watermelon. Click. 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 The shotgun quickly harvested the enemy's life, just like Dead Man's sickle, it never needed to be replaced. Headshot. There are dense bullet holes and blood everywhere on vehicles and walls. And standing beside a pile of corpses was an old man with a tall and straight figure holding a shotgun. At the moment he was holding a cigar in his mouth, blowing smoke rings. She was using a white towel with great interest, carefully and repeatedly, carefully wiping the blood from her hands. On the ground, blood has dripped all over the ground. Only the corpse with residual heat proved that it was how this old man managed to get rid of 2 Hydra elite terrorists in just a few minutes. After changing the magazine twice, the old butler twisted his neck, and then he took the shotgun again and walked upstairs step by step. The villa at the Lee Wayne base has 8 floors. The 3rd floor is a scientific research base, the 2nd floor is a parking lot, the 1st floor is a variety of entertainment facilities, and the 1st floor is where various living rooms and guest rooms are located. As for the 2nd floor and above, it is the rooms of the host and guests. The 4th floor and the 5th floor are Lee Way's private domain. The terrorists of Hydra were too confident, so confident that they scattered all their non-group members on the 1st floor. In normal times, this is correct. The search can be faster and more efficient because it is scattered, ensuring that Lee Way will not run away. Moreover, although the villa is large, it is relatively speaking, a group of 10 can also ensure the safety of the search to the maximum extent. The light of the flashlight is constantly shining in every corner, and they will not let go of any space that may be hidden. However, what made them a little desperate was that they couldn't get inside this villa at all. Except for the parking lot. On the rest of the floor, they couldn't even break the reflective glass outside, but they were greeted by countless bullets and a woman who was so perverted and pointed. Puff. 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 One sword won. Diana killed all the way from the 5th floor to the 3rd floor. There were dozens of Hydra elements who died under his sword. They must bear the anger of the Amazons. In his opinion, this is a kind of blasphemy. So, die. Puff. Diana once again wiped out the Hydra elements on the 3rd floor and slew towards the 2nd floor. Boom. With the sound of shotguns, the old butler also opened the prelude to the killing on the ground floor again. 1st floor, leave it to me. Robin Tim Drake, who had just taken over, stood in front of the door on the 1st floor with an unusually large figure, quite in a posture of one man and one man. He is holding a Gatling M134 rapid-fire machine gun in one hand, the huge and heavy machine gun is carried by him, and in the other hand, he is holding a Desert Eagle. The sharp contrast between the two guns made Tim seem to have a sense of rebirth of the Terminator Schwarzenegger. Gatling M134 rapid-fire machine gun, this is the old one among the Terminators. The machine gun has a maximum rate of fire of up to 6,000 rounds per minute. It is known as the Vulcan cannon. The barrel of the gun also looked extremely captivating, just like the same machine cannon, and the 6 movable gun rails roared like a fascinating roar. Da-da-da. Countless bullets landed quickly, and the huge amounts of Gatling's barrel spewed out a thick tongue of fire. Die to me, assholes. Tim was sweeping there, and the Hydra militants who had just rushed in were instantly beaten into a pool of flesh. And the guy who was just about to dodge to the side saw a small bullet in his sight. Oh, shit, that guy still has a pistol. With a dual purpose, Tim was shooting with a Gatling gun in one hand, but with the Desert Eagle in the other. Boom. The bullet accurately submerged an militant's eyebrows, and instantly penetrated his brain. In an instant, blood and brain plasma spewed out, bursting out of the back of his head, spraying on his teammates. And his corpse also fell weakly at the same time. Although the recoil of the Desert Eagle has been criticized for a long time, its power is generally recognized as large. In other words, as long as it can adapt to master the recoil of the Desert Eagle, this is the strongest weapon. Definitely, the main reason Tim uses the Desert Eagle is because he is handsome. With Gatling, it is simply his favorite of fighting madmen. After all, his current power has surpassed Captain America. Asterisk. Chapter 43, Winter Soldier. Come on, chopsticks. You dare to retaliate with just a little shrimp. Robin Tim was smiling wildly at that, but Gatling in his hand was not slow at all, shooting frantically towards the door. On the ground, muddy flesh had been spread on the ground, and several corpses headshot by the Desert Eagle. How to do? Several HYDRA elites from Europe, hiding outside the manor, couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Too frightening. They saw the Bat fighter just now and swept the 3 Kopaks they arranged directly into powder. And the dozen Hydra elites who rushed in were all lying there right now. There are hundreds of people, now it is estimated that it will be difficult to collect 50 of them. Let's go back. This is terrible. They still have such a terrifying fighter. One of Hydra's subordinates said to the leader. The leader took out his pistol and shot the guy directly without thinking about it. Who else wants to retire? The leader yelled. Everyone in HYDRA couldn't help shrinking their heads. They don't want to die. Rush in for me, I'll cover behind, and, the Winter Soldier. It's your turn to play. The leader spoke a bit tyrannically towards a black-clothed hooded man behind him. And when I heard that Winter Soldiers were to be sent, a group of Hydra elites suddenly felt a little excited. Let's go in. Ants, Red Eagle, we are in charge of that old man. The Winter Soldier treats that stupid man on the first floor. As for the Heavenly. The leader's pupils shrunk slightly, looking at the Wonder Woman who was continuously beheading on the second floor, he said, the rest of the people, I'll attack that woman for me, you must kill her for me. Oh shit. He cursed secretly, but there was a trace of fear on his face. That woman is really terrible. She has already killed the 4th floor by herself. Is this still a human? Quick fight, wait until we get rid of the 1st floor and underground, and then besiege the woman together. Come on, attack. On the 1st floor, take someone to cover the Winter Soldier. The leader waved his hand, and the remaining Hydra elites immediately slew towards the Wayne base. This time, it was undoubtedly more violent than before. They have a clear division of labor. The people who rushed in did not rush to aim at the Wonder Woman upstairs, but pretended to attack Tim at the door to cover the Winter Soldier. As for the leader and his subordinates, they aimed at the old butler. Clatter. 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 The elites of Hydra are not talking about it. At the moment when the leader fired a shot, several rifles shot at Tim in an instant. The flames of war surged again in an instant. Moreover, other Hydra members are also moving closer to Tim. 9 rifles, divided into 2 batches, fired continuously at Tim's whole body. Boom. 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 The gravel on the wall was hit and flew up, and the densely packed bullet holes almost made people frightened. 9 people, 9 rifles. The 2 sides cooperated and divided into 2 sides in a tacit understanding. They don't need to pretend, they just need to shoot Tim to death in the safest way. Because they have all read the information, they don't know this brawny man, but looking at his strong body, anyone can conclude that he is rushing forward, and no one is his opponent in close combat. Therefore, Tim, who was suppressing them with firepower, couldn't raise his head. At the very least, they think so. Boom. But what they didn't expect was that in an instant, Tim directly threw his Gatling gun at the Hydra on the side. Boom. The heavy Gatling gun hit the Hydra members. But Robin's whole person rolled directly, avoiding a round of shots extremely flexibly. Boom. Boom. The bullet from the Desert Eagle in his hand was not slow at all, and it accurately hit the heads of 2 terrorists. 2 headshots. No one thought that the men who stood at the door like an iron tower had such agile skills. What's more abnormal is that his subconscious reaction was almost completed in the blink of an eye. Before, it was because they had their guns pointed at them, and just pulling the trigger was enough to suppress him. After all, he is a flesh and blood body. Without Robin's casual suit, he cannot be indestructible at all. Therefore, he can only go around behind these people. And now that they have come around, then they will never have a chance to shoot again. Boom. 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 Rhythmic and continuous gunshots sounded, a few seconds later. Of the 10 Hydra elites, none of them can stand up. 10 bullets, not one was wasted, all hit their foreheads precisely. The magazines of the 2 Desert Eagles have all been emptied. Then, when Robin shot the remaining 4 bullets, something was wrong. Dang. 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 All the bullets were blocked by a silver arm. Ding clang clang. All the bullets from Tim's Desert Eagle pistol hit a metal arm without even leaving a trace of bullet marks. Roar. The metal arm slowly hung down, revealing the iconic mask, as well as a very long hair. Tim was stunned. Obviously he didn't expect that among these guys, there was still such a good player hiding. Roar. With a loud roar like a beast, this guy with silver arms obviously still has a grenade launcher in his hand, but he doesn't use it. Snapped. He threw the gun directly on the ground, and then straight, pounced on Tim. Winter Soldier. Hydra's strongest weapon is finally here. Asterisk. Chapter 44, Robin's Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier. His real name is Bucky Barnes, who was the closest comrade in arms of the Captain of the United States in World War II. Later, in an action at the end of World War II, he fell into the sea with the captain and was frozen. But unlike Captain America when he was rescued, the people of Hydra found and thawed him, installed a robotic arm on his broken arm, and trained it to be an agent loyal to Hydra only by brainwashing. Winter Soldier. Since then, Bucky has completed various assassination missions around the world for the evil organization Hydra as a Winter Soldier. It's just that he is the first time he has performed tasks for HYDRA. It can be seen that Hydra's brainwashing is very successful. It was so successful that he had washed his brains out of order, so he didn't need a gun and he had to play close combat. Since you are going to fight, then I will play with you. Tim turned his head and looked at the guy who was a head shorter than him. After being injected with the 3rd-generation super soldier serum, Tim hadn't played well with anyone. He only knew how strong he was, and how strong he was, he always wanted to try it. Looking around, he found that there were no enemies. Tim hooked the Winter Soldier in front of him. Come on, fight me. Winter Soldier didn't have any nonsense, his eyes were red, and his kick was lifted toward Tim's chest. Roar. There seemed to be an air current in the air, and the strength of Winter Soldier was not to be underestimated. Originally thought that this guy in front of him was just a Tim with some skills, and suddenly put away his contempt. This opponent is very strong. Ha! Tim slammed to one side, and instantly avoided Winter Soldier's kick. And the kick containing Winter Soldier's strong power suddenly kicked on the wall behind Tim. Click. The solid concrete wall at the entrance of Wayne Manor instantly created a pothole. Boom. The walls around the pothole are also cracked inch by inch. Good chance. Seeing Winter Soldier's foot stuck in the wall, Tim's eyes lit up, and then he hit Winter Soldier's head with a punch. Ah. Winter Soldier gave Tim a mocking look and watched his opponent punch him. This guy just raised his silver left arm and raised it slightly. Boom. Tim only felt that his punch had hit a thick iron plate. A violent countershock force made his pupils shrink slightly. This metal arm, so strong. Wow. Winter Soldier pulled his foot from the wall, then squeezed his head, and gave Tim a cruel smile, but the next second, it moved. Boom. 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 The two quickly confronted each other, but Tim became more and more frightened as he fought. The guy with his face covered in front of him is just like a fierce beast. He is a body strengthened by the serum of a super soldier. In terms of strength, he is actually only equal to him. Slightly, a little bit of advantage, but this kind of gap is not obvious. It was made up for by Winter Soldier's metal arm. This kid, has he also been injected with super soldier serum? In fact, Tim was right. The Winter Soldier in front of him was indeed injected with super soldier serum by Hydra, so his explosive power and physical strength were so strong. In that case, I won't fight against you. You have a weapon anyway. Huh. A tactical dagger suddenly appeared in Tim's left hand. Roar. Without hesitation, he directly reached out and wiped the dagger toward the Winter Soldier's neck, striving to kill with one blow. Since you can't regret it, you can only win with weapons. Clang. If it's an ordinary person, at the moment, facing Tim's sudden attack, I'm afraid he will dodge directly. However, Winter Soldier is no ordinary person. He directly stretched out his mechanical left hand and blocked it in front of him, his eyes flashed with thick disdain. Noisy. The dagger was cutting on the metal arm, making a crisp sound, and even the slightest spark of gas had been gassed, but the Winter Soldier was unscathed. The stainless steel arm with adamantium is as strong as vibranium. Therefore, ordinary daggers didn't cause a trace of harm to him at all. Boom. It was another powerful confrontation. Tim took 2 steps back and Bucky took 3 steps back. Although Tim's strength was dominant, Winter Soldier's robotic arm made up for the gap. Even Tim is not as good as that. Both people became angry. Come again. Tim yelled and rushed towards Winter Soldier again. Although Winter Soldier's mind was not normal, he was not stupid to let Tim fight. The two people twisted together again. Boom. Tim's kick was firmly on the inside of Winter Soldier's thigh. But it's still a bit biased, otherwise the effect will be even greater. But Winter Soldier's physical fitness is different from ordinary people. Even if Tim kicked it with all his strength, he just shook his body, but his mechanical arm slammed down on Tim's shoulder fiercely. Boom. 1 kick for 1 punch, Winter Soldier still has the advantage. Tim's expression changed a little, and the force on the mechanical arm almost pierced the strengthening shoulder. Opponent, but still like a okay person. Even, he had come back to his senses and hit his head again with a punch. Tim naturally wouldn't sit still. His rich combat experience told him that he should never be entangled with him in close combat with a person whose power is far beyond him. Otherwise, it will only be oneself who will suffer from strength. Use your flexible advantages and speed to interfere with sneak attacks. Therefore, Robin kicked Winter Soldier to no avail. He made a judgment in an instant, and took the opportunity to relay his body back. And at that moment, Winter Soldier's metal arm had already swung a punch. Roar. Only a millisecond difference. He almost punched Tim in the face. But it was not enough. Li Wei kicked Winter Soldier again, and his body retreated directly with this force, leaving Winter Soldier's attack range. And this kick finally succeeded. A successful kick. The third leg between Winter Soldier's legs. Well. Winter Soldier's expression was a little unnaturally distorted. At best, he was just a brashman who relied on brute force, plus he was brainwashed at all, and he didn't know how to use his brain at all. So, how could Tim's opponent be proficient in hundreds of fighting skills? There is a play. Tim couldn't help being overjoyed. Seeing that his fight was effective, he was about to rush to Bucky again, but Bucky suddenly rolled outside. Boom. A fiery red long sword that fell from the sky pierced straight into the ground where Bucky had just been. Wonder Woman, here comes the kill. Click. There was a huge amount of crack in the ground instantly. If it weren't for Winter Soldier's quick dodge, this sword would be enough to split him into 2. Ha! Wonder Woman retracted the sword abruptly, and then fell to the ground lightly, staring directly at the Winter Soldier who had just stood up. 2-1. The situation suddenly became clear. Not to mention that Bucky is not the opponent of Wonder Woman and Tim, or Diana alone, who can directly abuse Winter Soldier. What? Winter Soldier roared unwillingly, but Tim shook his head slightly. Until now, he didn't know how powerful the young girl who was following his master was. With one sword, the ground was directly split in half. How much strength did it take? Give it to me. The girl yelled to Tim behind her, and then she held a shield in one hand and a sword in the other, ready to rush towards Bucky. Diana, step back. A lazy voice, but also at this moment, passed into everyone's ears from the outside of the fourth floor. Master. Boss. Tim and Diana couldn't help being overjoyed, and they both looked up at Li Wei, who was standing on the fourth floor. Li Wei, who was injected with 5 super soldier serums, finally woke up. Asterisk. Chapter 45, Li Wei, wake up. Li Wei nodded gently, and stretched his body constantly there to adapt to the body that had just been strengthened by the 5 super soldier serums and almost exploded. Fortunately, this super soldier serum has no side effects. Fortunately, Li Wei's body is strong enough. Under such a powerful transformation, Li Wei abruptly survived, and then, the results are gratifying. Li Wei only felt that his body was filled with an extremely tyrannical force. This force can penetrate gold and cracked rocks. He has an intuition that even if there is a mountain in front of him, he can slam through a fist and directly penetrate a cave. Well, it is so strong. This is the abnormal body transformed by the 5 super soldier serum. Photos, see Trug Dyson Bikini in einem effentlichen Schwimmbad, den Werft. Der Bademeister Sie Raus. Sponsored happy-woman.com. Just so, let this brainwashing guy try my power. Ha. Without even thinking about it, Li Wei jumped off the 4th floor. There was a sound of huge amounts of on the ground, and Diana and Tim's expressions could not help but froze. Obviously, they didn't expect that Li Wei would jump off the 4th floor and then make such a big battle. The earth shook a bit. Then, click. The place where Li Wei was standing instantly split into countless pieces, and it was still cracking open at a speed that could be discerned by the naked eye. Tim swallowed, feeling a little depressed. This is also an injection of super soldier serum. Why is the young master so strong? Is it fake? Tim looked at the sky, and while constantly doubting his life, Diana also flashed a shock in her wonderful eyes, and a strong sense of warfare appeared on her face. It seems that the stronger Li Wei is, the more excited she is. Next, leave it to me. Li Wei suddenly made a sound like frying beans. He stretched his arms, and his whole body seemed to be fully opened. An extremely powerful breath spread out instantly. Boom. With the momentum, the flowers and plants of Wayne's base were directly cut off by the roots, and the pupils of Bucky on the opposite side couldn't help but shrink. Petal. He was just about to launch an attack on Li Wei, and couldn't help taking a step back. There was a deep jealousy in the biting pupils. The person who suddenly appeared in front of him gave Bucky a terrifying feeling, even surpassing that woman. Master, so strong. Tim pursed his mouth. His face was extremely bitter, but Diana was more and more interested in Li Wei. She had never thought that this seemingly calm boss would get angry and be so powerful. You guys have a good fight, but I haven't started the fight yet. Li Wei said to Tim and Diana. In fact, he didn't want to come out at the end, but there is no way. The phone needs the power of the hero to unlock the hero. The Winter Soldier in front of him is a superhero in Marvel. To gain the power of a hero, you must defeat your opponent in person to get it, so Li Wei had to go downstairs. Kneel down, or surrender to me. Li Wei looked at the scared Winter Soldier in front of him, and spoke slightly. Roar. However, Winter Soldier roared at Li Wei like a beast. After that, his body had already crossed over. The silver arm carried his full strength and hit Li Wei with a punch. The power increase of the robotic arm also reached its extreme in an instant. Just now he and Tim played against him, and Bucky didn't even use the power increase of the robotic arm. This is Bucky's strongest support. The mechanical arm can increase the strength of his whole body by 6 times in an instant. Boom. Carrying Bucky's strongest punch, it pierced straight towards Li Wei, and the air seemed to be completely torn apart. In front of Bucky's fist, it had become an absolute vacuum. Die. A hoarse voice came from Bucky's mouth, and then, the fist had reached Li Wei's body, and seeing this fist, it was about to reach Li Wei's chest. Li Wei smiled, dead. Is this guy Shirjila afraid? I am now, but I am even scared of myself. Boom. An endless and powerful punch finally hit Li Wei's chest with a dull loud noise. But the imaginary knock-up Li Wei did not happen. Li Wei's body just didn't sway, standing there, his smile still remained there, as if he had just punched it, as if it was tickling. Bucky was taken aback, obviously unable to believe that such a powerful punch hadn't had any effect. Even Li Wei's clothes are not wrinkled. Boss. Diana on the side was surprised. Roar made a sound. She didn't expect that Li Wei would not evade and was directly hit by Bucky. Master. Tim was also taken aback. Why doesn't this young master hide? Because, it doesn't hurt at all. Li Wei smiled slightly and looked at Bucky, whose face was gradually freezing. He just hit the strongest punch of his robotic arm, as if it hit a solid iron wall, and then the huge amounts of countershock force made Bucky's face a little bit distorted. Although the mechanical arm was made of metal, his body was still there, so the severe pain suddenly spread in his brain. It's been a long time. I haven't felt the pain for a long time. But now, Bucky feels the piercing pain from the bone marrow. What? He screamed, his whole person a little mad. Impossible. Why is this guy's chest harder than steel bars? With a punch by yourself, will it be yourself that hurts? Bucky's facial features were all kneaded together, and the feeling of his punch just now was completely immersed in his mind, making him a trace of fear. This person is not an opponent at all. Retreat. A word came to Bucky's mind, and he exerted force on his feet, ready to withdraw. But obviously, the other party will not give him a chance to retreat. Why, hit me, just want to run. Is superhero so unscrupulous? Li Wei looked at Bucky's foot and said lightly, since you hit me, then, let me punch you too. Asterisk. Chapter 46, You seem to be unconvinced. Sneer. Before Bucky had time to react, Li Wei, who was standing motionless, made a move. Whoosh. His hand stretched forward sharply, directly hitting a short punch. An afterimage flashed from Diana's eyes, and Tim on the side didn't even see Li Wei's shot. Too fast. A simple punch. Simply, powerful. Rumbling. In an instant, the air made a loud noise like a muffled thunder, and then the air in the entire Wayne Manor seemed to be evacuated in an instant. Crackle. A sonic boom resounding in everyone's ears, and even with Li Wei's punches, all flocked to Bucky, who was on the opposite side with endless fear. Do not. Bucky uttered a human roar. Although he is a test subject and has been brainwashed, the human instinct to fear death is still there, so he subconsciously embraced his hands and resisted his chest. The silver mechanical arm shines more and more in the dark. Boom. Li Wei's fist hit the silver arm firmly. Then, Bucky flew out like a cannonball. Click. Click. The HYDRA organization helped Winter Soldier's stainless steel metal silver arm made of adamantium, and there was a cracking sound. Boom. 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 Countless flowers, plants, and trees were all knocked down by Bucky's flying body, and finally, they smashed into a thick wall, forming a big herringbone. Tim and Diana both watched this scene in shock. Li Wei's punch just now didn't have much strength at all, but the weird man with the metal arm was directly knocked into the air by him. That's not a big deal, that metal arm seems to have been smashed too. Oh my god. Tim swallowed. How could he not believe that the power of Li Wei's punch just now was so strong? He knew the weird arm. After all, I just fought with him, and I couldn't compete with his arm. But now, he was opened and cracked by his young master with a soft punch. Tim felt a deep power gap. He did not expect that his young master was already so strong that he was no longer in the same world at all. Winter Soldier is nothing more than that. I can't even catch a punch of 10% of my strength. It's vulnerable. Li Wei shook his head and put his hands in his pockets, as if he had just punched, not what he had hit. 10% strength. Tim's cheeks twitched again, and this percentage of power was such a bunker. How terrible is that percentage of power? Diana was also brilliant, she became more and more curious about her boss. Tread. Li Wei walked towards Bucky, who was blown away by himself, and was quite satisfied with his strength in his heart. Very strong. It is many times stronger than what I thought. He thought he was at most 5 times the captain of the United States, but he didn't expect, he seemed to have undergone a geological change. A punch of 6 times the super soldier serum did not cause any harm to your body. This time the genetic modification was a complete victory. His body seems to be comparable to alloys, the increase in power can even crack the stainless steel metal made by adamantium with 1 punch. You must know that adamantium, but Wolverine's bones, is composed of extraterrestrial meteorites mixed with carbon alloys. Formation, with the property of being indestructible, is one of the hardest metals known on the Earth, and is as famous as vibranium. Even at a high temperature of 500,000, there will still be no signs of melting. But just like that, it was still broken by Li Wei. Although Winter Soldier's mechanical arm was not a whole adamantium, it was just mixed with some, but even so, it was quite terrifying. Now I, playing 10 captains of the United States, shouldn't be a problem. Li Wei smiled and looked at Bucky, who was hit into the wall in front of him. This guy struggled to get up, but he was firmly embedded in the wall. For a while, he couldn't escape. Although Winter Soldier is strong, this strength is actually relatively speaking. For ordinary people, he is naturally extremely powerful. However, it is also strong and limited. If Diana is allowed to fight Winter Soldier, Diana can definitely blow Winter Soldier with 1 punch. After all, the 2 sides are not of the same magnitude. Compared with Li Wei, who had not been injected with Super Soldier serum a few days ago, Winter Soldier's physical fitness is better than him. However, compared with Li Wei, who has now been injected with Super Soldier serum, Winter Soldier seems to be a little underread. Because, Li Wei's current comprehensive physical fitness is at least several times that of him. The reason why Li Wei did not directly blow Winter Soldier to the ground and competed head-on with him for strength was not because his strength was not as good as him, but Li Wei was accustomed to using the least cost to get the most benefits. You seem to be unconvinced. Li Wei looked at Bucky in front of him with interest and was beaten into the wall. His injury was actually not serious. Moreover, most of Li Wei's punch was blocked by his mechanical arm. It is a human instinct to save his life at the cost of a broken arm. Aha! Winter Soldier was struggling there, and the wall was crumbling. At the end, with a click, Winter Soldier slammed hard, and then got out of the wall again. What? Fight with me. Seeing Winter Soldier's unwilling look and the broken robotic arm, Li Wei showed pity on his face. It's so miserable, but you still have to perform the task that Hydra has given you. Is it sad enough? Ha! Winter Soldier did move. The price Hydra brainwashed him was that he would never give up if he didn't kill Li Wei. Then I will play with you again, right? This time, I don't use my strength, but use technique, to convince you. Li Wei had just been injected with serum, he just needed to get familiar with it. It was just the most basic strength. Now, he wants to test the overall quality of his body. Roar! Bucky has a slightly metallic fist, and swiftly rushes towards Li Wei. The speed is so fast that there is even a whistle of wind roaring through the air. If it is another person, I am afraid that he would have been punched to death even if he couldn't even see clearly. However, Li Wei is no ordinary person after all. Asterisk. Chapter 47, You Are So Weak. The increase in 5 super soldier serums makes Li Wei's nerves and reactions comparable to Superman. So. Wow. At the moment when he was about to be hit, Li Wei suddenly deflected and his body just turned sideways. The fist with strong wind suddenly checked from his side, but Li Wei took advantage of it, stretched his palm forward, and quickly drew towards Winter Soldier's body. The reaction displayed at this moment was simply a flash of lightning, and the quick average person had no time to react. Wow. The sound of his palms slashing through his clothes sounded, and even if Winter Soldier tried his best to dodge, there was still an extra blood line in his abdomen. The wound may not be deep, but it is enough to affect his combat effectiveness. Even if he doesn't know what the pain is, he doesn't care about the pain caused by the abdominal wound. But he must ensure that his abdominal wound will not expand. Otherwise, there is no need for Li Wei to kill him, he will lose too much blood and die. Therefore, he must guard against Li Wei and deliberately attack his wounds. The fact is indeed the case. The wound in the abdomen has no effect on the Winter Soldier, but the blood is constantly flowing. This guy didn't seem to feel the pain in his body, his face was still cold, without any expression. He was just very stubborn and hit Li Wei's face with a punch. However, this time Li Wei did not dodge. Boom. Li Wei's palm met Winter Soldier's right fist fiercely, and the two sides collided with the huge amounts of strength, and made a muffled noise. Winter Soldier was originally very confident that his power is definitely not something ordinary people can resist. However, Winter Soldier, whose face remained unchanged even with an abdominal injury, at the moment's face suddenly changed. Because he felt the sound from his finger bones. Crack. The crisp voice instantly made Winter Soldier understand the fact that his finger bones were cracked. The Winter Soldier, who has always been known for his strength, has always been able to crush others, finally moved. Being able to directly and forcibly break his phalanx with the palm of his hand in a positive situation, this is enough to show that Li Wei's power has surpassed non-human beings. However, the effects of force are mutual. Li Wei's ability to crush his bones without any injury to himself is enough to prove that Li Wei's bones are harder than Bucky's. Your bones are very fragile. Li Wei smiled and opened his palm. There was a broken finger, which was broken by Li Wei's palm. To be precise, it is not power, but oppression. If you change to a normal person, you should consider retreat at this time. After all, strength is not enough, and skills are not good. Then, apart from a deadly battle, there is only one way to escape. In a deadly battle, the opponent is better than himself in everything. As long as he doesn't kill himself, he shouldn't overturn. However, for Winter Soldier, all of this is meaningless. He has no thoughts of his own, he is just a puppet manipulated by others. Even in battle, he has always used force to overwhelm people, never considering the so-called skills. He never considered advantages and disadvantages. There was only one idea in his mind, and that was to complete the task. And his task is to kill Li Wei. Therefore, before killing the opponent, he would never consider other things. The phalanx of the right fist is broken, it's okay. He still has a left hand. An arm made of metal alloy can't even be shot through by bullets, and there is no way to leave the slightest trace. Its hardness is definitely much harder than bones. If he has the ability, he will interrupt his left arm again. Although, the metal on the surface has been cracked by the guy in front of me. But the metal inside is still there. Without the slightest hesitation, Winter Soldier never even backed away, and suddenly slammed his left arm at Li Wei. The speed is still so fast that it is hard to resist. No complicated skills are needed, just drop 10 times in one effort. It's so reckless. However, Li Wei doesn't even need any complicated skills to deal with this punch. Winter Soldier may not be as strong as him, but this metal arm is hard enough. If Li Wei competes head-on, he will definitely not be pleased if Li Wei does not exert his strength. It's like a metal wall. If you punch it hard, your hand may scratch the skin or even your bones will break. But if you want to ask the wall if it feels pain, it's a foolish dream. Li Wei didn't care how powerful Winter Soldier's punch was. He just staggered his legs and dropped his body slightly, letting his fists pass by. Ha! But at the moment his fist passed, his arm suddenly flared up, and an elbow hit, very hard, it all hit the Winter Soldier's waist. Technique, this is technique. Boom. With a muffled sound, Winter Soldier didn't even see Li Wei's movements, but felt that his eyes were dark, and a sharp pain came from his waist. No matter how strong the body is, it is impossible to make every part of the body's defenses equally strong. In some places, what should be weak is still weak. For example, the lower body, the eyes, and the weakness of the waist. What? The powerful force instantly lost Winter Soldier's mind, only to feel a buzzing in his mind, like tinnitus. The body was also due to the confusion of the brain, the limbs were out of balance, all of a sudden, he lost his balance, and slammed directly on the ground, making a dull sound. Continue. Li Wei played very well and hooked the hook to Winter Soldier. Although this guy is weak, he is a good opponent to familiarize him with his body. After all, ordinary people can still fight themselves like this, and they have long collapsed. But the Winter Soldier in front of him was a brainwashed monster, so he just shook his head and got up directly from the ground. After all, Winter Soldier's body was different from ordinary people, and he soon recovered. However, Li Wei would not give him any chance at all. Boom. As soon as Winter Soldier put his hands on the ground, Li Wei unceremoniously kicked Winter Soldier's waist. The reason why he didn't launch an attack directly was because he didn't want Winter Soldier to take a shot to resist his attack. In that case, this small advantage would not make any sense. So, as expected, Winter Soldier subconsciously wanted to stand up on the ground with both hands. Because of this, his body is completely devoid of any defenses, completely exposed in front of Li Wei. Boom. 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 The same part of the waist received heavy blows one after another, and Winter Soldier's depression can be imagined. Before he got up, he only felt a sharp pain in his waist, but the whole person had been kicked out, severely, hit the wall again. This time, Winter Soldier couldn't stand up anyway, because his lower limbs seemed to be scrapped. Hey, you are so weak. Li Wei wiped his hands and looked at Tim and Diana, who were dumbfounded. Okay, the battle is over, let's see our poor enemy. Asterisk. Chapter 48, Police, come out to wash the floor. When Li Wei dragged the Winter Soldier like a dead dog to the underground parking lot that was almost in ruins, the old butler Alfred Pennyworth had already ended the battle. This time, Hydra's revenge operation ended with annihilation of the entire army. As for the opponents, they are all alive. In Wayne Manor, except for a few cars in the underground parking lot, as well as the flowers and plants in the manor, the rest are all intact. Well, win. All 3 Apaches were destroyed, and more than 50 terrorists were also killed. As for the so-called elite death squads, this time they are really dead. The old butler was shot, although he was once the best agent of MI6. But he is old after all. After dealing with more than 30 terrorists, it was obvious that he was a little weak. So, he was shot in the arm. It was the leader of Hydra who did it, but the other party was directly blasted 10 times by the old butler and died. The old man vented his anger. However, fortunately, the penetrating injury did not hurt the bones. There is no need to perform surgery to remove bullet fragments, and there is no need to worry about any serious life threats. Moreover, you don't even need to go to the hospital. But after all, people are getting old, and although their energy may not decrease, their physical fitness functions have been declining. Therefore, in terms of recovery speed, it may take more than twice as long as others. It looks like it's time to inject some super soldier serum into the old man. Li Wei looked at Alfred, but the old man was holding a cigar in his mouth. He seemed to be invincible back then. Obviously, he didn't take the gunshot wound to his heart. After all, the guns and bullets of the year were more knowledgeable. Hey, I'm sorry for the flowers and plants that the old housekeeper grows every day. The outside of the manor was completely unrecognizable this time, and all the walls and everything were broken down. There were also bullet marks on the walls, and even one wall was mostly destroyed. Well, Winter Soldier did it. In contrast, the fully enclosed non-cut tempered glass on the periphery of the villa is intact. Because no one would stand in front of the glass, that would be too conspicuous. Therefore, no one will be bored shooting glass. Apache had thought of breaking the window, because it was so handsome. However, it is a pity that Diana cut in half before getting close to the villa. As for the occasional stray bullets, they didn't even leave a trace on the tempered glass. Therefore, the loss this time is actually very small, so small, to the local tyrant Li Wei, it feels like losing a few yuan. But Li Wei is still very angry. It can be said to be very annoying. Hydra seemed to him to be ants, a group of people that he didn't care about at all. After all, compared to Ultron and Thanos in the future, these guys are simply not enough. But, these ants actually come to provoke themselves. Moreover, when I injected the super soldier serum myself, it was so serious. If it wasn't for his body to be strong enough, then he would be terrible this time. 5 super soldier serums, what is this concept? So Li Wei is very angry, and the consequences are serious. Hydra, starting today, it doesn't have to exist in this world. He has given this organization a list of kills. That HYDRA headquarters in Europe, Li Wei definitely knows it. Went out. Clean up the manor and set off in 2 days. Li Wei said with a green face, and then beckoned, go upstairs, and meet the guys who are responsible for the finishing touches. It's really inefficient, I'm all done, they just came. Li Wei was really disappointed with the United States police. But he obviously didn't know that it was only 10 minutes after Hydra invaded and attacked Wayne Manor to his end. Yes, only 10 minutes, these guys have been wiped out. Upstairs, the police finally arrived late. After all, the Wayne Manor side is really playing too lively, its missiles and helicopters. In addition, 20 kilometers around this area is the land of Wayne Manor, and there are no other buildings blocking the line of sight, and this firework is particularly dazzling. Half of the citizens of New York City saw it all. By the way, in the United States, it is natural for the rich to enjoy it. So basically the villa area has a specially equipped police station. These police officers are actually the specialized bodyguards of these wealthy people in the villa area. Any suspicious person entering the villa area will be interrogated by the police or even directly detained. These policemen are not the ones who wasted taxpayers' money in other places, but the elites transferred from various places. Fortunately, nothing happens on weekdays. They are the public bodyguards of the rich and the first line of defense. Once there is movement in the rich area, these police officers will all be dispatched, carrying various rifles and pistols, and rushing to the scene of the incident. Their aim is to never let taxpayers' money be spent in vain. Well, definitely, they are actually pretty useless. Just like this time, dozens of armed personnel and 3 armed helicopters sneaked into the rich area, and they did not notice at all. But after all, it was Hydra who planned the plan for nearly half a year. If it can be discovered by the police, then they won't have to mess around. However, even if the police had to break into private territory for the safety of the wealthy, when they arrived outside the villa, they all set up their carts and did not dare to act rashly. Because at the moment, the gunshots in the villa have stopped. Therefore, it is not appropriate to act rashly now. There are only 2 possibilities for the gunfire to stop, that is, one of them is completely killed. And the police, all biased towards the rich, may have been killed. This kind of thing, in their opinion, is too common. On the other hand, because the old SHIELD, the New York headquarters building of the Strategic Science Corps was bombed, the new headquarters building is still under construction. After the reorganization, SHIELD director Nick Fury, at the moment is living in the Los Angeles branch. At the moment, after receiving the news that Li Wei's Wayne Manor was attacked, Nick Fury also hurriedly took some people, riding on several Bat fighter planes kindly provided by Li Wei, on his way to Malibu. It can be said that Li Wei affects the heartstrings of millions of people as a single person. The police are waiting for the arrival of the negotiator, because they think the rich have either died or been arrested. Therefore, it is necessary for negotiation expert, it. But unless he is a determined prodigal, he would not do that. The sunlight shining on people is warm, even warm. However, the passion of women is always incomprehensible. Even if Li Wei was injected with super soldier serum, he was already sweating at the moment. This is more tiring than facing his 10 winter soldiers. But Diana, this once heroic female warrior, at the moment seems to have endless experiences. It seemed that all the shops on Rodeo Drive must be entered before they were willing to give up. Diana, let's go back first. Li Wei was a little tired, and complained repeatedly, we will come back tomorrow as soon as possible. I didn't sleep last night and I was a little tired. Deliver. Diana blinked her big beautiful eyes, seeming to be a little surprised, is it possible tomorrow? All right. Li Wei admitted that he was down. He greeted the girl's beautiful bright eyes, and then nodded heavily, as long as you just want to, you can do it every day. Although Li Wei's original intention was not like this. But, what's wrong with a white lie? Well, let's go back then. Diana was obviously moved by Li Wei's words, and Li Wei actually couldn't wait. I definitely don't want to wait to sleep with Wonder Woman. After all, the relationship has not yet reached this point. Although Li Wei wants to do it in his heart, he needs a bite to eat, and his emotions have to gradually sublimate. The reason Li Wei can't wait is that the Batman phone has sent out several reminders. Congratulations, you have gained the power of a hero and unlocked the 3rd hero. Host, please choose, draw or summon. Chapter 52, I think, I know who she is. Congratulations for unlocking the new DC hero, the Flash. Seeing this prompt popped out of Batman's phone, Li Wei couldn't help but smile. The Flash. This 3rd hero is quite powerful. Defeating Winter Soldier Bucky also provided him with heroic power, and it is precisely because of this that he will have the opportunity to draw new heroes. And, it's the Flash. It just happens to be the ability that I need extremely fast. Li Wei's heart is a little excited. After all, the Flash is quite famous in DC. Who is the Flash? Anyone who has heard a little will probably know that he is the fastest person in the DC world. The ability of the Flash originates from a power that is called a superpower, and because of this, the Flash is called a super speeder. With superb power, they can achieve ultra-high-speed movement, even faster than the speed of light, even tens of times the speed of light is not a problem, and even more terrifying is that he can pause time for a long time. But this is not the ultimate. The extreme speed can break the barriers of time and space and reverse time and space. Yes, that's right, the Flash is more than just running fast. It can reverse time and space. It is the master of time and space. This is the most terrifying thing. Moreover, with the blessing of superpower, this 08 group can completely ignore the collision, and even travel to the parallel world. And, under the protection of superpower, perhaps the Flash's physical fitness will not be much improved. However, they can use this high-speed movement to ignore all laws of physics. That's right, ignore everything. Theorem. 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 Let people like Einstein and Newton go to hell. For example, the speed of sound. In theory, if people reach the speed of sound, they will be burned alive by the friction of air. After all, the human body does not have the same quality as the steel used to make supersonic aircraft. The speed of light is countless times the speed of sound. Without protection, it is impossible for a person to reach the speed of light. In that case, a person would have died early. But the superpower is different. It not only protects the human body from harm, but also ensures that the clothes on your body and even any objects you carry will have no problems. Not only that, with the development of power, there may even be other more magical ability. In fact, in addition to the speed force, there are also related powers such as the inverse speed force and the static force. One of these two can swallow the speed force, and the other can restrain the speed force. It can be said that it is the nemesis of superpower. In addition, there are power, sage power, and several unmentioned powers. So, the DC world is really messy. Moreover, the power system is also higher. Marvel also pays attention to science, either mutation or technology. Anything DC has something to do with God first, anyway, in the end, it's true. None of this hinders the speed of the Flash, which is well-deservedly fast. It was almost time to subvert the universe, but Li Wei was still cautious, and Wei Wei asked, "Which the Flash?" "Lord World, the Flash, Barry Allen." A line of words appeared on the phone, which also made Li Wei firm in his decision. This guy, but the existence of the end of the road, in the original book, he changed history and plunged the world into chaos. In order to bring history back to the right track, he revised the timeline, and under the influence of the mysterious woman Pandora, DC the universe restarted, and the new 52 was born. This is a guy who can restart the universe. There is no need to explain the awesome life. Host, please choose, extract or summon. Extract. Li Wei made the choice without hesitation, and she is not a cute girl, can it be summoned without extraction? Besides, with the power of the Flash, everything is easy to say. Even if there is no speed of light, from New York to Los Angeles, it is only a momentary thing. We must know that the speed of light in a vacuum is 300,000 kilometers per second, and the speed of light in the air is close to the speed of light in a vacuum. But the circumference of the entire Earth is 40,076 kilometers in total. This kind of ability is much stronger than others. So far, Li Wei has only drawn 3 heroes in total. The first Batman had been absorbed, and Wonder Woman Diana was summoned by him. The third, the Flash, is now completely absorbed by him. So, if you want to get a harem or something, there is still a long way to go. Jingle bell. I was lying on the bed thinking, but suddenly the phone rang by the bedside. Because of the backwardness of the times and infrastructure, even Li Wei can only use his eldest brother to answer the phone now, which is really troublesome. Boss. When I connected the phone, I heard Nick Fury's somewhat anxious voice, "The information you asked me to check has been found. The guys who attacked Wayne Manor are indeed Hydra agents. However, the number of people is wrong." "What's the meaning?" Li Wei frowned and said solemnly. "The wrong number means that someone hasn't come. It is impossible to run, but he cleaned the entire villa from top to bottom. The dozens of people were all cleanly killed by him. There is another girl. Nick Fury answered, most of those people are Hydra agents drawn from the mainland, and most of them have information. However, 7 of them do not belong to them, but are mobilized from Europe. In addition to the Winter Soldier Bucky you gave me, there is also an elite death squad of 5 people. However, another girl disappeared. The intelligence showed that she did not follow these people into your villa, but disappeared before. But the body was not found, the entire villa was emptied, and no trace of her was found. I see. Li Wei nodded slightly, he knew exactly what Nick Fury's worries were. It's okay if the girl doesn't enter the villa, even if she hides in the dark, it doesn't matter. Winter Soldier was beaten to death by him. What's the use of the remaining girl? However, Nick Fury is afraid that she will sneak into the bat base below the villa. There is technology that has surpassed the world for 20 or 30 years. SHIELD cannot ask Li Wei to force it, but they absolutely do not want to be obtained by HYDRA. SHIELD has to abide by the law and cannot be robbed, and theft is almost impossible. However, Hydra has no concerns in this regard. Once they get these technologies, it will definitely cause world-class turbulence. Don't worry, she is down to the basement at best. Li Wei heard Nick Fury's concern and comforted, if the -3 layer is not authorized, others will not be able to reach it. 147-inch. Anyway, it is also Batman's base. If anyone can go in, it would be too cheap. But it was also right. At that time, he only cared about the agents who cleaned the living area of the villa. But the basement was ignored by him subconsciously. Moreover, he didn't think anyone would go to the basement. The basement is unoccupied, so those who are silly will run to the basement. Definitely is to search from the first floor up, layer by layer. Their target is Li Wei, and they don't know that there is a bat base underground. Why go to the basement for no reason? Therefore, Li Wei at the time ignored this. Now being mentioned again by Nick Fury, he remembered it. But fortunately, the police should still be there now, and the girl should not be able to escape. At most, he will just go over and get her up now. Okay, what's her name? I'll rush back right away. Natasha Romanoff, unidentified. Li Wei just put on his clothes and took the door to go out, but suddenly he almost didn't fall. Even if you know your name, how can you still be unidentified? That's the name she used to go through customs. I don't know the specific identity. Ah. Li Wei laughed, and said on the other end of the phone, I think, I know who she is. Li Wei shook his head and hung up the phone, but an intriguing smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Natasha Romanoff, this name is very famous in Marvel. Hey, at least Marvel powder like Li Wei can't be cooked again. Chapter 53, The Beauty of Ultimate Speed. Natasha Romanoff, this is the name of Black Widow. Yes, it is Black Widow, one of the famous founders of Marvel Avengers. In the comics, it is also a character who has survived the Second World War. However, when Marvel was created, it was originally not thought to be moved to the 21st century. Therefore, there is actually a mismatch in time. Because of this, after these superheroes were put on the screen, they all changed their original settings. If you have to use comics to set movies, it is naturally an act that a fool can do. Natasha Romanoff, as Black Widow, was originally one of the superhero. However, Li Wei estimates that she is not a superhero. After all, Black Widow is the superhero, and Natasha Romanoff is not. She is at best a super agent trained by the Soviet Union and HYDRA. However, before she joined SHIELD and became famous, she was still not a superhero, only an agent. However, since she took the initiative to send it to the door now and had the opportunity to hold her in her hand, Li Wei would naturally not give up such an opportunity. What's wrong? The girl in pajamas also woke up, and stood pretty at the door looking at him. In fact, at the moment Li Wei brought the door to the room, Wonder Woman, who was beyond ordinary perception, had already heard the conversation between Nick Fury and Li Wei. It's not that she deliberately overhears, it's that her hearing has become so acute. Even if she closes her ears, it's useless. Well, there is still a little mouse on Wayne Manor that hasn't been cleaned up. It's still early, so you can go to bed for a while. Tomorrow, I will take it out for a stroll. Li Wei smiled, her eyes full of tenderness when she looked at the girl. Shopping during the day has taught Li Wei that girls all have the same nature. Although it is not possible to satisfy the girl in everything, it is possible to make her not lonely or bored as much as possible. Then I'll be together too. Diana felt Li Wei's concern and smiled heartily. I'm the best at catching mice or something. Wait for me, I'll change my clothes before setting off. Li Wei was speechless for a while and didn't know what to say. Remember, it's catching. Li Wei paused and added hastily. If you accidentally beat Natasha Romanoff to death, there is nothing to say. However, Li Wei is really speechless thinking about it now. Okay, what are you doing in the basement? As a result, I still have to trouble him to run back again. In fact, there is nothing in the basement, it's just a pile of debris. Well, definitely, there may be something incredible in this for others. For example, certain antique oil paintings and the like. Li Wei didn't know at all, it was the credit of his own butler, in order to find him a Batgirl or Oracleman. Diana soon changed into combat attire, a suit of armor like a Greek warrior. A pair of long, slender, round and beautiful legs are exposed, and Li Wei is figuring out whether to prepare a tights for her. Or, let's have a try. Li Wei thought of the ability of the flash that he had just extracted, and suddenly he had a bold idea. Diana looked at him with some confusion, as if she didn't understand. We depart from here and go to the villa in Malibu to see who arrives first. Li Wei pointed to the ground and then to the far southwest. He suggested, the loser must promise the winner a thing that does not violate the principle. The so-called non-violation of the principle is actually to give Diana a chance to rely on. Who knows the bottom line of other people's principles? Sure enough, Diana was moved. Good. The girl agreed, her pretty face was full of pride, she was determined to win. Well, if it was half an hour ago, she could have said this. After all, Wonder Woman has the guardian blessing of the Olympus gods, has the ability of flight, and also has the wings of Hermes, capable of super acceleration. Her speed can even accelerate to supersonic speed in a short time, and fly at supersonic speed for a long time. If you go all out, you can even reach close to the speed of light. What's more, the winged shoe also possesses the ability similar to teleport. It is said to be speeding up, but it can make the girl go anywhere in an instant. Although the former Li Wei was strong, it was also relative to ordinary people. Although she didn't want to admit it, Diana could hang him. But now, Li Wei is confident that with the Flash, he can play Wonder Woman in front of him. Even, it can make her collapse. After all, martial arts in the world can only be broken soon. When the speed reaches a certain level, no matter how powerful the ability is, it is useless, unless you can confine the space. That is another kind of ability. The current Wonder Woman obviously does not have this kind of strength. The reason why Li Wei bet against Diana is entirely due to the mismatch of information between the two sides. By the way, give this heroine to yourself, let's get rid of it. In the province, she always thinks that she is very good. In fact, she is really good. Li Wei knows everything about Diana, but Diana knows nothing about the new ability he just got. So this result is obviously destined. When does it begin? Wonder Woman waved her pink fist excitedly, believing herself, I will let you 10 first, no, let you 1 minute. The girl wanted to talk for 10 minutes, but thought that Beverly and Malibu were not very far apart. In 10 minutes, if Li Wei broke out with all his strength, it would still be possible. If you cheat on an airplane, it's even less of a problem. So, after thinking about it, I changed my mind for another minute. In 1 minute, you won't be able to get there even by plane. Because although the speed of the airplane can be reached, it takes more than 1 minute from the landing to the boarding of the airplane. That's what you said. There was a deep smile on Li Wei's face. It's a pity that Wonder Woman didn't see it. Just now, Li Wei felt that he was a little unskilled when he got the ability of the Flash for the first time, so he might lose. However, Diana was so conceited that he wanted him for a minute, wouldn't it be a win? I started counting 1, 2, and 3. Li Wei nodded and reduced his smile to avoid being seen by Diana, pretending to be calm. Don't be so troublesome, you can run even at any time. Diana waved her small hand, looking domineering and mighty, I will set off again in a minute. Before the text was finished, Diana's eyes suddenly opened. Ga. Because of her voice, Li Wei's person has disappeared. She watched Li Wei disappear, not suddenly, but rotten. Her naked eyes didn't even start to distinguish. A fire blue light had already shot out into the air in an instant, bringing up a long tail. Hamura, fast people can't even imagine. Chapter 54, I Want to Fight You. Diana's mouth grew wide, her eyes staring at the green light, with an incredible expression on her face. So shocked. She didn't realize until now that she was pitted by Li Wei. The kind of miserable pit. Let it be a minute. With the speed he shows now, he is no more than himself. No, it is much faster than himself. Wonder Woman thought in shock. 1 minute is enough for him to run dozens of laps around the earth. Wonder Woman, who had never sweared before, uttered words that made her blush for the first time. This is the only way to blurt out so skillfully when you get angry to a certain extent. Boom. With a heavy kick on the ground, Wonder Woman flew towards Li Wei. On the other side, Li Wei is already completely immersed in superb power. As someone said, I have never experienced it personally and never know its magic. Because the speed was too fast, Li Wei almost ran across the range of the villa in an instant. When he reacted, he was still in superb power, but he could clearly feel that he was standing above the 147 flat ocean. However, less than a second passed. It was almost a moment of breathing, and he had already rushed out several million meters. And because he was not familiar with it, Li Wei used the power of the flash for the first time, and the speed was not well controlled. But even so, he was almost close to the speed of light, so, too fast. I am also desperate. Looking at the location of Los Angeles behind him, Li Wei shrugged helplessly. Diana, I don't want this to be you, which stimulates me. Man. How can you say no? A certain female hero obviously didn't know that Li Wei had already found a good excuse for having defeated her shamelessly because she was too fast. Sometimes too fast is also an annoyance. There are more than 50 kinds. At the speed of Wonder Woman, it will take more than 10 minutes to arrive in New York. Time, more than enough. More than 10 minutes is estimated to be enough for the Flash to circle the Earth hundreds or thousands of times. So Li Wei decided to take advantage of this time to get acquainted with the Flash's ability. After all, he has just mastered it. Although he is all familiar with it, he still has some shackles when he manipulates it. He activated the Flash's ability again. After that, everyone could hardly see it. There was a red and blue light, spinning fast above their heads. This speed is almost impossible to detect by radar. Because it's so fast. This speed. My God, is it still a human? When Li Wei began to really master the speed of the Flash, he knew what kind of superbug ability it was. Faster than light. I seem to be able to travel through time and space now. However, because there is no energy in the DC universe, Li Wei now cannot reverse time and space, but time and space are in his eyes, as if it has stagnated. Everything, in Li Wei's view, is a standstill. He shuttles endlessly, the Earth is motionless. In order to prove that the Earth is round, Li Wei did not stop at all and chose to move on. However, after more than 10 minutes passed, he suddenly realized. Although the Earth is round, the route I ran on seemed to be off the track. Under the blessing of superpower, it is not difficult to discern the direction. However, Li Wei is just beginning to master it after all. Although there are experiences in my mind, those experiences are more theoretical and have never been practiced. Ever since, he simply ran from Los Angeles to Australia. Then he realized that he seemed to have ran by again. Although superpower is fast, it also requires constant exercise to master it proficiently. Otherwise, there will be something like Li Wei. Every time, I ran past. Then, he had to continue running back with a bitter face. In this way, the Flash, which was just born in the Marvel Universe, just flew around the Earth constantly to the end, but he just happened to arrive 1 second earlier than Diana. Wonder Woman looked at Li Wei who was floating there, her eyes seemed to be breathing fire. Boss, are you teasing me? Diana looked at Li Wei a little embarrassed, because she watched Li Wei swept away from her, and then a little bit faster than her, reaching the end. She knows very well that with the speed shown by Li Wei, she will be able to arrive quickly at the very beginning. But it happened to be only 1 second longer than her. This second is undoubtedly a humiliation for the proud Amazon warrior. No, Diana, I'm actually very helpless. Li Wei spread his hands, expressing his innocence. I actually just realized my own speed and power, so I am not proficient, so I ran so many laps. How many more laps? Along the earth. Diana frowned. Well, along the earth. Li Wei thought for a while, and said solemnly, maybe there are more than a few laps, there are hundreds, hey, more than 4,000 laps. Li Wei said honestly, but this number directly frightened Diana. What is the concept of more than 4,000 laps? The circumference of the Earth is 40,000 kilometers, that is to say, he ran 140,000 kilometers abruptly within 10 minutes. My God. Diana's mouth could not help but open wide. In fact, Li Wei just ran around the Earth, the exact number is 4,013 laps. In just over 10 minutes, Li Wei ran more than 4,000 laps around the Earth, which was still not familiar with the flash ability. This number is a bit scary, but Li Wei said it honestly. You are lying to me. The first thought that Wonder Woman reacted was unbelief. Even if she is Wonder Woman. Run more than 4,000 laps around the Earth in 10 minutes. This speed. Diana was a little angry. She was holding her stomach for a while, and now this guy actually said that she just ran more than 4,000 laps around the Earth. Pot. She suddenly pulled up the Vulcan sword on her back and pointed at Li Wei. Boss, I want to fight you. A few days ago, Diana saw Li Wei hit the Winter Soldier with her own eyes. At that time, she wanted to compete with Li Wei. Now she just took this opportunity to compete with him. The proud Amazon warrior, never give up. What's more, she lost a bit miserably in terms of speed just now, so Diana was ready to fight again and win another round. Chapter 55, Wonder Woman vs. Li Wei. Are you serious? Li Wei looked at Diana, who was drawing a sword. Definitely. Amazon warriors never lie. Diana's heroic and saucy face flashed a trace of warlike desire, and her face was full of warfare. You will regret this. Li Wei shrugged and looked at the Wonder Woman in front of him with pity. The previous self may not be her opponent, but now, with the blessing of the Flash's ability, he has nothing to fear. After all, martial arts in the world can only be broken soon. In terms of speed, Diana will have no chance of winning. Humph. You are underestimating me again. A trace of anger flashed in Wonder Woman's eyes, and the divine power in her body was constantly recovering. Although the man in front of her was the one she trusted the most, Diana wanted to knock him down. Because this is already a matter of her glory. Come on, boss. Dare to accept the challenge of the bravest Amazon warrior? Diana squeezed the Vulcan sword tightly. Li Wei sighed slightly. Okay, so you can completely give up. Bright. Li Wei had just fallen as promised. Diana was already holding a long sword in her hand, and a magnificent light of fire slammed down at him. In this flame, with the strength of the Vulcan sword's subatomic level cutting, Roar screamed. Drink. Diana screamed, her eyes full of war. Seeing the red flames on the sword, he was about to touch Li Wei's body, but Li Wei's body suddenly faded. A red light flew up to the sky at a speed faster than light. Pust. The sword of Vulcan only hit a phantom of Li Wei. What? Diana looked at Li Wei's body gradually disappearing, as if she could see a thick sneer on the face of that phantom. My own mortal sword didn't actually work. Then. Boom. A huge amount of impact force exploded from her abdomen. Li Wei suddenly came to Diana's face, almost touching her face, while his hand touched the smooth belly button of Wonder Woman, and shook his head slightly. Did you give up? Diana. Li Wei didn't exert any strength, and kept pressing Diana's exposed belly with his hands. The smooth and firm texture was ecstatic. Diana was mad and cut across Li Wei with her hands. Snapped. This cut once again shattered an afterimage. This time, Li Wei got behind Diana and hugged her waist. It's useless, in front of absolute speed, all your moves will be eclipsed. Boom. Diana shot again. Li Wei flashed slightly, and cupped her delicate and beautiful face with both hands. The country of Wonder Woman at this moment has lost his sanity because of his anger, but it is still extremely stunning. Click. Li Wei flicked on Wonder Woman's forehead. What a stubborn girl. After finishing talking, she didn't wait for her to counterattack, but Li Wei's speed suddenly shot to the extreme. The sky was full of Li Wei's lightning green glow, spinning quickly around Diana, as if teasing there. But Diana couldn't catch a trace of Li Wei at all. "Diana, have you seen it? This is my speed. Give up. You can't be my opponent." Li Wei's voice seemed to be instilled into Diana's ears from all directions. Diana, who was originally full of war spirits, kept turning around and trying to follow Li Wei's speed, but it was impossible at all. She raised her eyes to look at Lu Mang, and finally, Yan Ran sat down on the ground. As Li Wei said, she is not his opponent, because she can't even see Li Wei's body, let alone hit him. His speed. It's really so scary. Li Wei used hard facts to prove to Diana that he didn't lie just now. Now, believe it. Li Wei hung in front of Diana, looking at her condescendingly. Diana nodded weakly, holding a slightly frustrated head, and said slightly, "I believe it. It turns out that the strength of the boss is so strong, Diana is still very weak." "Get up." Li Wei beckoned, but said, "It's not that you are weak, but that although you are strong, I am stronger. After all, my skills are bugs." Before Diana had fully activated his divine power, Li Wei could abuse her opponent as she wanted. "Well, I will definitely work hard." Diana's fighting spirit seemed to be ignited once again. Looking at Li Wei, she showed a touch of respect that she had never had before. "Boss, let's go home." 0. Look for flowers. 2 people at the moment on the shore of the Atlantic Ocean. Li Wei was too fast and ran over, and Diana, although she had just passed Wayne Manor. If she is willing, in fact, as long as she gets there, she has already won Li Wei. However, because she thinks Li Wei is using speed to humiliate herself. Therefore, she did not choose to go to the manor, but followed Li Wei behind her, racing with him like a puff. Ever since, a chance of victory was lost in vain. Both men directly hit the Atlantic Ocean. "Okay." Li Wei smiled and landed on the ground. The two walked towards Wayne Manor not far away. This time, instead of using super ability, he paced slowly. "By the way, Diana, you just seemed to leave early, right?" Li Wei suddenly thought of something. He glanced sideways at Diana, looking at her with an incredible expression. Wonder Woman cheated. Li Wei stared at Diana with silent eyes, as if he was questioning, "What about 1 minute? You actually set off in less than a minute. Boss, didn't you win? What else do you want?" Diana snorted coldly, turning her head and not looking at him, but her pretty face was slightly hot. In fact, she did violate the agreement. Who made Li Wei suddenly show the speed, so that the female fighters panicked, so within a minute, she shot out. "Then you are still angry at me? I've violated the rule, so I'm actually questioning me. Are women so unreasonable?" Li Wei shrugged helplessly. Sure enough, women and reasoning are totally unreasonable, especially like Wonder Woman. Li Wei had no choice but to compromise, just as this had never happened. However, for a while, he could not find the right words. Ever since, the atmosphere is so straightforward and embarrassing. Ding! There was a crisp sound, but at the moment it broke the silence of the night, Li Wei took out his Batman mobile phone from his pocket somewhat strangely. "What's the situation? It seems that you haven't unlocked the 4th hero, right? How can there be information?" 5. Chapter 56, Boss, you are too much. Congratulations to the host, defeated the DC hero Wonder Woman, and won the favor of Wonder Woman, and randomly obtained one of her ability. Rub, there is such a hidden reward. Li Wei never imagined that after defeating the DC heroes she picked out, she would get one of her ability randomly. Randomly copy and distribute the ability of the target hero. Ding! Congratulations to the host, get the Mantra Noose. Mantra Lasso, Diana's main weapon. It is Hephaestus, the god of fire, made with the gold belt of the goddess of the earth, Gaia. The lasso was given by Hestia, the goddess of the kitchen, and tied to the arrow by the hunting goddess Artemis herself, and Olympus shot down the mortal world from Mount Pius. The lasso is considered unbreakable, and people trapped in the lasso can only tell the truth. This lasso is also Diana's own weakness. Once trapped by the lasso, Diana's 160 will become weak and lose her supernatural power. The lasso symbolizes the truth. Diana, who broke the lasso in the Red Sun, also said that the reality is painful. In order to keep her head awake, Diana keeps the mantra lasso around her at all times so that she can face the objective and truthful world of rationality. Mantra lasso. Li Wei smiled a little. How could he not know this stuff? This is a good thing. The biggest function is to bind the opponent, imprison his ability, and force him to tell the truth. Used to interrogate opponents and mortals, it is simply a big killer. Good stuff. Li Wei smiled a little, looking at the words, whether to retrieve, that popped up on Batman's phone. He did not choose to retrieve it immediately. To take it out like this, Diana would be shocked again. Diana, or else, let's come and learn again. Li Wei has tasted the benefits, and he is going to brush up all the ability of Wonder Woman. But it is a pity that Wonder Woman does not give Li Wei this opportunity at all. Boss, you are too much. Diana glared at Li Wei. Li Wei's smile gradually lost. It seemed a bit too much. Forget it, change another person next time. Li Wei made up his mind, and must master the skills of DC heroes. After all, it's for nothing. Thinking of this, Li Wei showed a deep smile at the corner of his mouth. Diana looked at her heart abruptly, and she suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. Boss. It's weird today. Soon, Diana and Li Wei returned to Wayne Manor. Although the outside of the manor is still a bit damaged, the villa has been completely renovated and is cleaner and tidy than before. The police are really hard-working. Alfred. Li Wei looked at the old housekeeper who came up, shook his head slightly and said, "Do you know that there may be a terrorist hidden in the villa?" "Master, don't worry. I think you lack a person to serve, so you take the initiative and leave her in the basement." A harmless smile appeared on Alfred's face. "I think you should be satisfied with my arrangement." Li Wei was stunned, but also smiled. "Very well, Alfred, you did a good job." "Thank you, Master, for your compliment. These are what I should do." Alfred seemed very humble, and Li Wei felt that the butler was more satisfied. "The second batch of super soldier serum, you can inject it." After finishing this sentence, Li Wei walked to the basement. Basement. The future Black Widow Natasha Romanoff is very annoyed now, and the annoyed ones are going crazy. She is only 14 years old, why should she go through such a thing? 2 days ago, I entered this villa as a maid. Everything was fine, saying it was cleaning. Although it was cleaning the basement, she didn't feel anything wrong. Probably, it was the old housekeeper who saw her young, so he didn't let her clean the room for fear that she would mess up. Therefore, the basement with no valuables became her workplace. And when she arrived in the basement, she did find that there was nothing here. It's nothing more than some calligraphy, painting, and oil painting. She doesn't know anything on it. After all, she grew up in the Red Room since she was a child. In her eyes, glass balls and diamonds are the same. The only thing she knows deeply about it is probably guns. Because that can be life-threatening. However, she still made a mistake. When she finished cleaning the basement and was about to leave, she found that the elevator couldn't start at all. And this pitted basement doesn't even have a staircase. Is this still a human thing? When she grew up in the Red Room, her first instinct was that something was wrong. This is based on the most keen judgment of an excellent agent. A basement, but there is no downstairs, there is only an elevator, which can go directly to the basement 0. Only down, not up. At first Natasha Romanoff didn't think there was anything, as long as there was a way down. But now she doesn't think so, because the elevator is broken. No, it should not be said that it is broken, it should be said that this elevator cannot be opened anyway, as if it is out of power. Technology. Advanced elevator technology. The elevator is good, but it needs the owner's authorization to open it. And she, even if she used violence, couldn't open it. This is what Natasha Romanoff understood after being trapped in the basement for a day. Since it couldn't be opened, Natasha Romanoff had to react accordingly. She also knew that she might have been exposed. He was locked up in this damn place. But she was not desperate. After all, she was the best agent cultivated by the Red Room. The other party did not kill her directly, but instead imprisoned her, which meant that the other party did not want to let herself die. Therefore, you have to use value yourself. Then the other party will definitely show up. At that time, it will be a chance to get out of trouble. The most outstanding thing about Black Widow is her psychological quality and agent ability. So she tries to save her strength in case she needs it. But it is a pity that the soundproofing of the basement is not very good. The missile bombing by Apache helicopters, coupled with the intrusion of dozens of militants. All of this made Natasha Romanoff understand a truth: his teammates who temporarily cooperated, and 0.5 did not wait for her for 3 days according to the original agreement. But one day after she left, she started the action. This group of guys, are they pigs? Natasha Romanoff almost didn't scold him at the time, waiting for the assassination mission. And as a qualified agent trained from the Red Room, she deeply understands that latency is a long time. However, she did not understand. Although my teammate is also an agent, the educational philosophy he receives is completely different from her. However, it doesn't matter anymore. The plan is implemented in advance, but this is not a big problem. As long as it can be successful, at that time, you can also get out of trouble. However, what Natasha Romanoff did not expect was that the plan finally failed. This is really news that makes Natasha Romanoff desperate. Moreover, she was listening to the failure of these guys. Chapter 57, The Future Black Widow. Natasha Romanoff has not participated in the operation. This time the long-planned plan failed. And she didn't have time to imagine when the time was fast. Boom. Natasha Romanoff fisted weakly on the elevator door glass, and the pain from the feedback made her feel the rubbish of the teammates this time. After that, she was still unwilling to give up, her face pressed against the cold elevator door. She wants to hear what's going on outside. But as a result, Natasha Romanoff was even more desperate. From the beginning of the explosion to the constantly gunfire, it could be heard that the fight was fierce outside. However, after 10 minutes, everything was over. She only heard the voice of a man. He hadn't heard this voice, but he knew that it was not from the group of them. Police, come out to wash the ground. The sound of police sirens, the sound of footsteps constantly coming in and out, and the roar of the elevator running normally all told her that the plan was a complete failure. Moreover, her identity was seen through from the very beginning. Otherwise, she would not be locked in the basement. Obviously, the elevator is still good. At that moment, the girl's heart sank completely. She could only squeeze the 7 poems that she hid on her inner thighs, and looked nervously at the elevator door. Your teammates have been killed, so it should be your turn, right? The girl thinks so. Therefore, even if I have been hungry for a day, dripping water has not entered. She still cheered up and looked at the elevator nervously. It seems that there will be a large group of heavily armed police rushing in at any time to arrest him. However, it did not. When the girl spent a day like this nervously, after another day without dripping water, she can't hold on anymore. Scientific research shows that people can last for about 7 days without eating. Instead of drinking water, it can only last for 3 days. And these are still based on people's mental health. Because there is enough evidence that people are extremely likely to go crazy in a closed environment. Moreover, maintaining a nervous nerve for 2 consecutive days, and having to stay awake and not daring to sleep, is more harmful to the human spirit. So, Natasha Romanoff, who maintained high intensity and tension for 2 consecutive days, was a little bit confused. He has not been able to get a good rest, nor can he get food and water supplies. Although she was only 14 years old, even if the super soldier serum gave her the physique of a kind of soldier, she could last longer than ordinary people, but it would not be too long. After all, her age is there. No matter who you are, you have to drink water. And she almost died here. From the beginning, I was afraid that someone would come in from the elevator. In the end, she even expected someone to come in from there and take herself away. Kacha-_. With a soft sound, the elevator doors finally moved somewhat. When the 2 elevator doors opened slowly, Natasha Romanoff was excited in that moment. When seeing 2 figures slowly walking towards the basement, Natasha Romanoff wanted to fight back, but found that he was powerless. The body is too weak. She was wise and did not choose to resist. Because, even her teammates are on the street, the point is that even Winter Soldier is on the street. She didn't think her resistance could bring herself anything. What's more, her current situation is utterly worse. She had even discarded her head. She did not run towards the other party excitedly, because that would be easy to be mistakenly killed by the other party as an attacker. Therefore, she just tried her best to curl up her thin body, like a poor little cat being discarded by others. Poor, weak, helpless, even so cute. Roar. Li Wei looked helplessly at the girl curled up in the corner. He didn't know until just now. An agent moved forward to his villa for 2 days, and then he was locked into the basement by his housekeeper without authorization. And its purpose is self-evident. This made Li Wei a little bit dumbfounded. If he hadn't come in time, he would have to go to Europe in 2 days. At that time, the girl might really starve to death. This is not what he wants, after all, the other party, but the famous Black Widow in the future. And it's the best time to develop a juvenile body. If you really die because of it, then your sin will be serious. Water. Water. The girl looked forward with some blurred eyes, her lips open lightly, and she was constantly whispering. She really couldn't make it anymore. Bright. Diana maintained a vigilant posture, looking at Natasha Romanoff in front of her, treating the enemy. She didn't have any mercy or kindness at all. Diana, don't be nervous. She has no threats. Li Wei waved his hand and came to Natasha Romanoff's face. The girl in front of her looked a little weak, her body was quite frail, but her figure was unexpected. Take her up, take a good wash, and then come and see me. Li Wei said to Diana. Diana shook her head. She felt that it was really unnecessary to let herself do this kind of thing. Diana, you are the only girl in this villa. Do you want me to do it myself? Li Wei's words made Diana thoughtful. In the end, she picked up Natasha Romanoff, but still kept alert on her face. Bright. The elevator moved up quickly. Li Wei's voice reached Diana's ears. Tomorrow, we will go to Eastern Europe together. Fly over. Diana nodded slightly and looked at him with some doubts. Do not. Li Wei understood what she meant, and shook his head lightly. Let's go by plane, by the way, it's a tourist. The King's. The plane, so slow. Diana was a little emotional, but she was not dissatisfied. After all, although the plane is slow, it is more comfortable. After flying for a long time, people will feel tired. Although it won't be hurt, the feeling of wind hitting the face is very uncomfortable. Li Wei is a person who enjoys. Although he can fly over in less than a second, he is not willing. All this was heard clearly by the girl Diana held in her arms. Eastern Europe. These 2 words made her pupils slightly shrink. Is it possible that they are going to retaliate against HYDRA? Admit. This organization is powerful. As the agent of the Red Room, she knows the best. But fly over. Natasha Romanoff felt that she must be hungry and hallucinating. Swire Top 10. Old irons, let's continue to do it, 100 more. Chapter 58, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Alfred, the old butler, has prepared dinner and drinks. Natasha Romanoff's eyes lighted a little when he saw it. I don't know where a surge of strength jumped onto the table, where it gobbled up to eat. Looking at the Black Widow like this, Li Wei is really hard to hook up with the Black Widow he imagined. Fortunately, she is still only a Russian agent. After eating and drinking, Natasha Romanoff realized that everyone in the restaurant looked at themselves with a weird look. Her face suddenly turned red. But what followed was a kind of vigilance. She knew that she was an enemy to the group of people in front of her. Bright. Before Natasha Romanoff had any reaction, a golden rope appeared in her sight. Mantra lasso. Diana on the side couldn't help but startled roar. She didn't expect Li Wei to have such an artifact. Wow quack. Braving the golden light's mantra lasso, Black Widow was pumped firmly. Go ahead, tell me everything you know truthfully. 160-inch. Including Red Room and Hydra information. Natasha Romanoff was struggling there, but she found desperately that the more she struggled, the tighter the rope seemed to be pulled, and in the end, she was a little out of breath. And there is an urge to make her speak truthfully. In the end, she told Li Wei everything she knew. Including her injection of a lethal virus. This is how the Red Room controls its agent. If it escapes, the virus will break out directly in the body. Howard, Lucius, she will leave it to you. It's okay to remove the virus from her body, right? Li Wei looked at old Iron Man and his assistants who were preparing to eat. The 2 of them didn't care about such trivial matters at all. The Soviet virus is probably a product left over from World War II. It shouldn't be difficult to crack, but boss, are you sure you want to get rid of the virus in it? This sister, but the enemy. Lucius kindly reminded him, but Li Wei waved his hand. Well, take care of the virus in her body, don't worry about the others. Threat? Just kidding, if the young lady in front of you can threaten yourself, don't confuse yourself. Wonder Woman is not Li Wei's opponent, let alone Natasha Romanoff. Li Wei took a deep look at Natasha Romanoff. Don't you want to go back to the Red Room? Smart people should know how to make choices. After leaving this sentence, Li Wei walked directly to the dining table. Natasha Romanoff looked at Li Wei's back, but there was a complex emotion in her eyes. She was really confused. Looking at the golden rope on her body, she felt a deep sense of powerlessness. To be honest, she had never heard of such a method of extorting a confession. What exactly is this rope? Natasha Romanoff thought curiously, but in his heart he also began to think about Li Wei's words. Do you want to go back to the Red Room? That dark place. Boss, I choose to join you. In the end, Natasha Romanoff made the most correct decision in her life. Li Wei shrugged to the old butler Alfred. My dear butler, you should know how to do it. Yes, master, I will let her get acquainted with the business of Wayne Manor as soon as possible. Alfred bowed, then went down wearing Natasha Romanoff. Well, let's celebrate, we have a new member. Li Wei raised the red wine glass in his hand and said to Robin and Howard beside him. Several people laughed at the same time, but Wonder Woman, IF, was a little curious and said, Boss, your mantra lasso is also on Paradise Island. Did you get it? Secret. Li Wei smiled slightly and met the girl's somewhat surprised gaze. Diana obviously didn't expect that Li Wei would answer her like this. Okay, let's discuss what we will do tomorrow. Hydra doesn't need to stay in this world anymore. But Li Wei squinted and remembered the Hydra intelligence that Natasha Romanoff told him just now. Although she didn't know the Hydra base well, she heard a slightly important message from several Hydra terrorist organizations. In the Hydra base, there seem to be two terrible monsters. It is a bunch of seasonal sisters. Is it you? Quicksilver Scarlet Witch. There was a flash of sharpness in Li Wei's eyes. If he only hated Hydra for revenge on himself before, now, he has to go. After all, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, but the two super players in Marvel. This is the power of two heroes. It's really nowhere to find a place to break through the iron shoes, it's all effortless to get it. Quicksilver, don't blame me for making you feel inferior. Li Wei grinned, with a very playful expression on his face. He seemed to have thought of Quicksilver's shocked look after seeing his speed. I really look forward to tomorrow's revenge journey. Li Wei took the red wine and smiled a little. On the second day, Li Wei took Wonder Woman and Natasha Romanoff towards the battle base of Wayne Manor. It was an empty square on the Atlantic Ocean, but for the people around it, it was a forbidden area, and no one dared to come to this place. Because this is the private residence of Wayne Manor, without authorization, even if the President of the United States comes over, he will be shot directly without any room for negotiation, and it is reasonable and legal. Today, a huge amount of big guy was transported over early in the morning. This is a gift Li Wei specially prepared for himself for this revenge. Nick, haven't you come yet? Li Wei asked Natasha Romanoff next to him. Black Widow had completely taken over her role of secretary. The virus in her body had been removed from her body yesterday, and the two great scientists could not be troubled at all. Already contacted. Say on the road. Natasha Romanoff replied quickly, looking up at the military watch on his wrist. It should be 2 minutes before we reach the gate of the base. Hey, you are waiting for them here. They are here, let them board the plane directly. With that said, Li Wei took Wonder Woman and walked towards the big guy in front of him first. This big guy is Li Wei's tool for this flight. Chapter 59, A Big Plane. On the plane, Nick has not digested the shock of seeing the big guy just now. I said, boss. Nick, the one-eyed man who is not yet blind, looked at the young man sitting on the opposite sofa and drinking red wine with a weak tone. What's wrong? Li Wei looked at Nick Fury with some confusion, and looked around. Is there anything wrong with flying by plane? No. Nick Fury, some feelings of powerlessness, don't force yourself to hold back, and then go to look at the blue sky and white clouds outside the window. Yeah, that's right. They are on the plane now. A Boeing 777, the latest model of aircraft first launched by Boeing. Boeing 777, a long-range twin-engine wide passenger airframe manufactured by Boeing, is the second gamble in Boeing history after the 747. If it fails, Boeing may not escape bankruptcy. Just to produce the Boeing 777, it cost hundreds of millions to expand the plant. By the way, Boeing company Li Wei also has certain shares. Not too much, only 10%. This Boeing 777 is actually a test aircraft rather than a production aircraft. After all, any type of aircraft needs a test flight before mass production to verify and facilitate the improvement of the aircraft's shortcomings and loopholes in the future. So under normal circumstances, test aircraft are actually more expensive than mass-produced aircraft. Moreover, because it has been constantly tested and tested. In terms of safety, it is more stable than those mass-produced machines that have never been flown. Definitely, Boeing now only has such a Boeing 777, and it has no plans for mass production. Originally, it was okay to fly by plane. After all, to go to Eastern Europe from the United States, there are only two kinds of flights and ships. It is naturally faster and more convenient to take a plane than to take a ship. However, the problem is that the Boeing 777 is too big. Today, the most luxurious aircraft in the world is Air Force One. However, even Air Force One is no more than a Boeing 747. Because Li Wei's Boeing 777 is larger than Air Force One, and its length is close to 100 meters. And there is only one, it is difficult for others to not pay attention. This is completely different from Nick Fury's original low-key idea. "Boss, can I ask, how much did you spend on the plane?" Nick Fury shook his head helplessly. The matter was a foregone conclusion and he was unable to change, but he still asked curiously. "The bare metal is $150 million US." Li Wei stretched out the empty goblet in his hand and said lightly, "I redecorated it myself, and spent $20 million US. The original design was too bad." Nick Fury was a little silent, and he was a little weak to complain. Well, the Boeing 777 was originally designed as a civil aviation aircraft, but now it has been turned into its own private jet. You are definitely not satisfied with the decoration. However, the decoration alone costs $20 million, which is too extravagant. It's incredible. It's really evil capitalism. Nick Fury murmured, with a vague look of resentment on his face, "If I had money, it would be great. This plane should have come out only a few years later. But because it is the Marvel world, everything is possible." So when Li Wei first came to Marvel half a year ago, he started buying and buying. If you have money, you can do whatever you want. The Boeing 777, which was purchased half a year ago, did not conduct its first test flight until half a year later because of the interior decoration. It's not so much an airplane, it's a luxury hotel in the sky. In terms of comfort, you don't even have a presidential suite. At least, I have never heard of any presidential suite that costs $170 million US. The little maid, Natasha Romanoff, dressed in a black and white maid uniform, stood by the side, holding a glass of red wine for Li Wei's empty one and was filled with half a glass. Actually, there is not much money. Li Wei retracted his hand, took a sip, and said lightly, "I removed the original more than 300 fixed seats and replaced them with the current decorations. They are all the best. Just like the one next to you. The wooden table is made of golden nanmu." Nick Fury felt that he had been injured by 10,000 points of crit. He stood up bitterly and walked towards the drunk driving, thinking that he must cry Li Wei in this evil capital. Then he drew a bottle of the most expensive red wine produced by Chateau Lafite in 1982, the top red wine in the world. However, he quickly thought of the box of Lafite that Li Wei gave him at the beginning. Suddenly, he had an urge to cry. This strong black man of 1.8 meters almost didn't cry. "I'm out for a stroll." Silently inserted the wine back, Nick Fury resisted the urge to cry, opened the door and walked out. They were in a small living room for meeting guests. 0. Look for flowers. The exterior of the plane is still decorated in white, but the interior is mainly made of gold and silver. It looks extremely luxurious and is comparable to a palace. Open the door and there is a lounge outside. There are 12 chapter seats, and several separate rooms with separate bathrooms. And Nick Fury also lives here. Passing through the lounge, there is also a huge amounts of meeting room outside. Definitely, most of the time the meeting room is a decoration. This is entirely to imitate the office meeting room of Air Force One for the president. A large oval table is placed in the middle, with 5 chairs on each side. There are also 2 chairs on the front and back themes. Rows of bookshelves made of golden nanmo are lined on the metal wall of the aircraft, which are full of books on all aspects. 0. Although, most of Li Wei has never seen it. However, this is not all. Nick Fury really wants to cry. Because the plane is divided into 2 layers, they are still only on the upper layer. But if you want to go to the lower floor, you have to go out from the other side of the drawing room where he came out just now. It can be said that there are everything available on the plane. Medical rooms, kitchens, study rooms, and meeting rooms are basically only what people can't think of. Moreover, there is also a dedicated weapons arsenal in the aircraft. At the moment, there are still dozens of SHIELD agents on the plane. They are here to scold the most luxurious airliner in the world. By the way, it is the real purpose brought by Nick Fury, in order to protect the safety of Li Wei. The lower floor was also divided into 2 halves, half of which contained 5 of the world's top luxury cars. Moreover, it is bulletproof. Looking out through the window, you can see 2 accompanying Boeing 747s. No need to doubt, all above are SHIELD agents. Being able to be luxurious to the point of Li Wei, life has almost reached its peak. Nick Fury, sitting on the bed in his room, he even cried, expressing feelings of life. If I had money, it would be great. This is the second time he said, because he was really shocked by Li Wei's anger. Natasha Romanoff, how long do we have to get to London? Li Wei shook the goblet, frowned suddenly, and asked with some doubts. Natasha Romanoff was speechless, and said helplessly, I'll ask Mr. Captain, because the boss said that I should try to be as slow as possible, so I can't estimate the time. 5. Chapter 60, Is there a backup plan? London. A modern but ancient city, it is not as romantic as Paris, not as old as Rome, and not as prosperous as New York and Los Angeles. However, it is still the shining jewel of the British Isles and even the entire Western Europe. Compared with other well-known cities, it has a unique royal luxury. Buckingham Palace is world-famous. The Big Ben, the British Museum, Windsor, St. Paul's Cathedral, the Tower of London, world-class well-known landmark buildings are world-renowned, and the array is dazzling. What is the charm of London that can attract the attention of others? This is a question worth pondering, but only when you come here can you truly feel the unique charm of the country of in London. Fascinating. There is 1,000 Hamlet in the eyes of 1,000 people, and similarly, there is 1,000 London in the eyes of 1,000 people. But in any case, there will always be 4 or 80 people who think that London is an ordinary and characteristicless city. Li Wei raised his hand and looked at his watch, which indicated that the time was 10 o'clock. They set off from New York at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it is 10 o'clock in the evening. It took a total of 8 hours on the road. At the moment, it is 3 o'clock in the morning in London. The night in London is also beautiful. Although the voyage is nearly 8 hours, they have plenty of rest time. The plane has been transformed into a comfortable private plane, so the time on the plane is not boring. I can sleep even when I'm tired, and my spirit is still very good. The arrival of the 3 private jets has already been notified to Silo International Airport in advance. All over the world, there is a hidden rule that the rich have more privileges. Not to mention, this is currently the largest private jet in the world. After getting off the plane, naturally someone stayed here to arrange maintenance and parking of the private plane. As for Li Wei, he just left with someone. Although it was early morning local time, the number of people on the scene was not small at all. So I said it should be low-key. Nick Fury and Li Wei sat in the back seat side by side, looking helplessly at the reporters outside with cameras through the window. Do you think it's low-key? Li Wei sneered and used Nick Fury's hypocrisy. It wouldn't matter if I was the only one. The Bat fighter can be invisible, even if they drive to the Hydra base, they won't be able to detect it. However, hundreds of SHIELD agents are traveling, and they are going to Eastern Europe. Do you think, how can they not attract the attention of Europe, and these people will come here? Ahem. Nick Fury was killed and speechless, so he had to cough to hide his embarrassment. The vehicle slowly left the plane and headed for the nearest VIP channel. At the passageway, there were already a number of police cars waiting on the sidelines. Seeing their convoy approaching, none of the vehicles that Ying's local area had prepared were used. I had to hurriedly let the police cars open the road. All front and rear sides were police cars, responsible for protecting their convoy. Boss, you guessed it right. Nick Fury's face was slightly gloomy, as it was since leaving the airport. SHIELD cannot invade the airspace of other countries without saying a word in the future. It is based on having a space carrier that can be invisible, and on the basis of SHIELD's transcendent status. Today's SHIELD is only an agent organization in the United States. But the United States and the Ying country are not so harmonious. After all, Europe is the territory of the Ying countrymen. Although Li Wei is not this group of people at all, he has to make some arrangements for flying over so furiously. If Nick Fury wants to fly directly to Eastern Europe, he has to call Roar and explain his purpose in advance. Otherwise, Ying State has the right to arrest all hundreds of them on charges of espionage. Although they won't kill them, they will definitely let the United States come to redeem them. Definitely, whether it can be done or not is another matter. And Nick Fury knew this, so he tried Roar with Ingwe in advance, and explained his purpose, that he came to trouble Hydra. However, even so, they still sent police cars to protect them. It's not a guess, can you use your brain to think about it? Li Wei looked at Nick Fury with a little helplessness, paused, and said slowly, on this small piece of land in Europe, dozens of countries with large file sizes are squeezed, and the marriage between the nobles of these countries it's especially common, it's all me and you and me. Hydra can even occupy half of the United States. How much better do you think Europe will be? You called Roar to the government of Ying in advance, which is to tell Hydra clearly that I'm coming to beat you, hurry up and get ready. They didn't directly knock down the plane while we were still hovering in the sky, that was to save the United States zero. That's why I said at the beginning that I don't need your shield people to follow. It's too much trouble. Li Wei sighed long, but Nick Fury couldn't say a word with his neck. Although the Bat fighter is powerful, the number is limited after all, and the number of people on board is also limited. But Nick Fury insisted on taking this as SHIELD's debut, and considering that SHIELD is his own organization, Li Wei also agreed to Nick Fury's terms. As a result, Sokovia, which was planning to sneak into Eastern Europe secretly, became a private plane and landed first in the country. Definitely, what Nick doesn't know at all is that this is part of Li Wei's plan. Well, he started to lay out again. Heathrow International Airport is about 30 kilometers west of central London. And now it is far from the prosperity of the 21st century, and there is wasteland all around. On the long highway, a fleet of 5 luxury cars was speeding on it, surrounded by a dozen police cars and motorcycles. There is a street light every 50 meters on the highway, but the light looks a little dim. Among them, the sirens of police cars are exceptionally loud. Just like positioning, it is impossible for others to know where to go. I'm afraid I can only give up the task this time. Nick Fury has an undisguised loss on his face. I thought that this time the 1.2 pairs would make SHIELD famous in one fell swoop. However, after all, he has only just become the chief of authority, and he has too little experience. Therefore, he does not understand what politics is. Just because there are people following them openly wherever they go, they don't even want to sneak attack on Hydra's base. Fortunately, they did not disclose the location of the Hydra base in advance, and did not notify the authorities of the Ying country to cooperate with them. Otherwise, Hydra might have run away long ago. Ordinary heart. Li Wei closed his eyes slightly and said lightly, "Isn't there a backup plan? Are you not ready?" "What's the backup plan?" Nick Fury was puzzled, but he seemed to think of something suddenly. Since the boss said there was a backup plan, there must have been a plan. The one-eyed man now can't do the same thing in the future. Chapter 61, Gemini, appear. What? 17 Bat fighters lined up one after the other, but this is already all the inventory of the entire Bat base. And this time, all of them were dispatched only to wipe out this Hydra headquarters. Boom boom boom. In the first time, the entire bunkers outside the castle were all killed by the precise guidance of the Bat fighters. 1 missile and 1 bunker are definitely not many, and definitely not many. In the end, there were still missiles left, but there was no surviving bunker. All obstacles within 500 meters in front of me were cleared. Simply let some of the agents I look at below, completely unimaginable. What's the situation? They thought they needed a fierce battle, but how has it become so simple now that it seems to be a one-sided battle? This, the legendary Hydra base, so weak. Attack. In the next instant, after Li Wei's low drink, more than 50 well-trained SHIELD rapid reaction force agents began to advance toward the castle at great speed. Step on. They swiftly swept towards the base. In the sky, more than a dozen bat fighters turned on their headlights to illuminate the way forward, completely controlling the air power. Pushing and rolling all the way, extremely arrogant. Any HYDRA agent that tried to threaten it was immediately beaten into flesh by the revolver gun carried on the bat fighter. Da-da-da. The artillery fires constantly, splashing around like a meat grinder. At a distance of 500 meters, the agents of SHIELD are just like normal pulling strength training. Finally, the battle curtain opened, allowing Hydra's elite to react. However, this group of guys had just been attacked and killed directly. These SHIELD agents try their best to not be held back by HYDRA, but break through at the fastest speed. Otherwise, they may not be able to advance to the inside of the castle. So in order to ensure the ability to break into the castle, the name of SHIELD was rectified. They must not be held back here. Boom. The bullet was not wasted in the slightest, and was poured ruthlessly on any Hydra element who dared to approach. This scene is so similar, just like they sent someone to invade Li Wei's villa before. More than 50 people are constantly pressing into the castle, and any outcropping enemy will be killed by them without hesitation. Hurry up. Hurry up. Build a line of defense. This is not an exercise, this is actual combat. SHIELD's attack was so suddenly that no one in Hydra expected it. However, as time went by, they finally reacted. Although the first line of defense formed by the bunkers was killed, hundreds of Hydra elites died. However, the entire castle has hundreds of heavily armed Hydra agents. Just over 100 people died. What is this? Boom. A helicopter attempting to take off from the top of the castle was hit on the spot by a missile launched by a bat fighter, which turned into a ball of fire and fell from the sky, hitting heavily on the snow. Fuck. Baron Strucker stood on the top floor of the old castle, looking at the helicopter that had just fallen with a green expression on his face. Even the air is blocked, this is for him to die. There is no underground passage in this bunker, and now he is really desperate. How did they find our base? Don't you mean that they are still in the hotel? Who are these people? You answer me. Baron Strucker growled hysterically, but the secretary beside him didn't say a word, he was completely stunned. Too fast. They were flirted with Hydra before they had time to react. Including the secretary himself. Why do not you speak? Support, have you called? Straker almost yelled at the secretary beside him, if you don't have support, just wait and go to hell with me. Boss, our communications are all cut off. The secretary was sweating profusely, and almost cried out in a grieved tone. Our people can't contact outside, and outsiders don't know what's going on here. Fuck. Struck kicked him away with an angry kick, and punched the wall with an incompetent furious fist. Don't look at the SHIELD agents' dynamics, which are machine guns and missiles. However, this place is too remote. It was originally for the sake of insurance, for security and confidentiality, to deliberately place the castle on the outskirts of a small country in Eastern Europe. So there is nothing near here except this old castle. There is only a wasteland around it, not even a highway. It is to prevent outsiders from entering by mistake. However, now each of them has become a reminder for them. Straker suddenly regretted it. Why did he come here? As the leader of HYDRA, he doesn't have to stay with these agents. He can stay in his top apartment in London, or in a villa in the suburbs. It shouldn't be in this damn castle. Where are the twins? Send them out. As if grasping the last glimmer of hope, Strack gripped the secretary's collar tightly and looked at him grimly. Hurry up and send them out, we can only rely on them now. Strack was completely panicked, he didn't know that there were only more than 50 people who came to make the effort. And there are hundreds of them. Such a huge amount of gap, in fact, Hydra may not necessarily lose, or even win a lot. Definitely, the premise is that Li Wei and Diana don't make a move. Without them, even with the bat fighter, the SHIELD agent would also be difficult to support. After all, too few people is a flaw. However, none of them, who were panicked, thought about these issues. Therefore, they just wanted to escape blindly, without even considering whether they could annihilate the enemy. Hydra has been at ease for too long, and it is completely incomparable with the Hydra who dared to oppose the world. They are no longer the original HYDRA. There is only one doubt in Baron Strucker's heart: how did these people know where they are hiding? This base has not been discovered for decades. Shit. The Lord Baron was cursing there, but he was thinking of a way to get out. Da-da-da. Soon, a team of 50 people crossed into a formation close to the castle. And Robin Tim, carrying the huge and overweight Gatling around his waist, constantly fired at the surrounding Hydra agents who were approaching or even attempting to shoot. Die to me. Tim looked very crazy. He obviously likes to do things like revenge. Who told these guys to dare to tease their young master's tiger beard? So Robin was slaughtered there, and all the enemies in front of him were shot into a sieve. Ha ha ha. Carefree. Robin laughed loudly, but the next moment a touch of blue flashed from his eyes. Robin suddenly raised his cold hair, and a dangerous intuition, for money, made him realize that it was dangerous. But before he could react, he suddenly felt a huge force in his abdomen. Wow. Robin was overthrown to the ground. Boom. He landed headlong in the snow and accidentally took a mouthful of snow when he got up. Puff. Robin vomited the foreign object in his mouth fiercely, and there was a faint anger on his face. Fuck. Who? For his opponent, he can't find it. For Robin, it seems too strange. To know that his nerves and reactions have been strengthened by the super soldier serum, ordinary people, let alone approaching him, will be aware of the pool in advance, even if they move murderously. But now, this guy has not only approached him, he hasn't noticed it yet. Not ordinary people. Robin quickly made a decision in his heart and looked around. Are you looking for me? A silver-haired boy in a blue tights suddenly walked past Robin, and even shrugged his shoulders, with a touch of playfulness on his face. In his opinion, the strong man in front of him is like his toy. Chapter 62, Come on, boy, let's compare the speed. Asshole. Robin rushed towards the boy in blue, but he was empty. Use. The blue-clothed boy disappeared, and then appeared behind Robin in the next second. Are you trying to settle the account with me? Then you have to keep up with me. As he said, the boy's figure quickly faded again, turning into a touch of blue and disappearing in place. Shit. Robin got up from the ground, cursed at my next to his ear, and said helplessly, Boss, there is mutant, we can't deal with it. At this abnormal speed, he knew that it would be futile to fight again. Therefore, he directly sought support. Mutant. Okay, I'll come right away. Li Wei's reply came from the headset. Li Wei was stunned, but he reacted quickly. Tim should be talking about Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. He was waiting for these two guys. According to the plot, the Gemini should only appear after 20 years, but now they are suddenly at the Hydra base. This point, Li Wei was puzzled at first. It's simply unbelievable. But after thinking about the mutant mentioned by my mother just now, it seems that this world has become a little different. 480, does this world already know the existence of mutant? The Marvel Universe and the Mutant Universe have been merged into one. Although in the comics, the two universes are parallel, there are actually inextricable relationships between the characters. For example, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are actually the children of the big villain, Magneto, in X-Men. Scarlet Witch was originally named Wanda Django Maximoff, and Quicksilver was originally named Pietro Django Maximoff. This name is actually not the key, but both of them are mutant. Magneto, this is a gangster-level figure, the absolute boss in X-Men, is regarded as the enemy of the X-Men. However, Magneto, as a boss-level giant, is not a layman. On the contrary, he is very jovial and shows mercy everywhere. Scarlet Witch Wanda, Quicksilver Pietro, Anya, Nina, Polaris. The few known children, except Anya, all have the X gene, and they are all mutants. The total number of mutants is actually not small in the Marvel world. Even if they are 1 in a million, they have hundreds of thousands of nearly 1 million people in the Marvel world, And among these people, very few people are related by blood. But by the way, as the Magneto gene of the boss, it's like being turned on. Every child is a mutant. Moreover, they are extremely powerful. Among the 4 sons and daughters, there are even 2 of Omega-level potential. This is the most powerful mutant level, can control matter and energy, has unlimited potential and even immortality. Scarlet Witch Wanda is one of them. In the X-Men series, Wanda actually didn't make an appearance. Quicksilver Pietro has played, and his X gene is activated autonomously. But in Avengers, the brother and sister activated their ability because of Mind Gem. But now it seems that according to the timeline, both of them should be activated independently, similar to the comics. Li Wei squinted, analyzing there. Quicksilver Scarlet Witch. It's a good thing to show up early. Because I can subdue Scarlet Witch. Even Quicksilver is no problem. Moreover, if you defeat them, there are 2 heroes. And the power of heroes, it means that DC heroes can be unlocked. He has personally experienced the power of Batman's mobile phone. The ability of the Flash makes him want to stop even more. Therefore, a smile appeared in Li Wei's eyes. He really has to thank HYDRA. For unknown reasons, Gemini was still captured by Hydra just like the original book. But this is also expected and normal. In the mutant universe, people all over the world are trying to capture mutant and conduct human experiments, trying to apply their power to ordinary people. No matter which country is an exception. And HYDRA, naturally, is not to be outdone. Mutants with millions of people are scattered all over the world, even if Professor X Charles and Magneto are working for mutant. But after all, what they can do is limited. When 2 people add up, they can shelter no more than 10,000 mutants. Among them, the main credit is Professor X Charles. Magneto can only be regarded as an auxiliary. Even if he wants to shelter mutant, there is nothing he can do, because he is a big terrorist villain, and he knows every day to do things and engage in various terrorist attacks. The other mutants are all spare materials for the test products of genetic experiments in various countries. As long as they are accidentally exposed, they will be captured by state organs. After passing through the information of the siblings quickly, Li Wei had an idea. Diana, leave that girl to you. Hearing this, Diana looked at the girl who was not far away from the SHIELD agent, with a crimson barrier in front of her, and nodded gently. Well, leave it to me, boss. Remember, don't make too much effort. Li Wei thought for a while, still exhorting. After all, it would be terrifying if Diana had no limited use of power. In fact, Diana has been sealing herself because she is too powerful. But even so, facing Scarlet Witch, who has not yet grown up, she still looks too strong. It is very possible that the opponent will be killed directly. Don't worry, boss. Diana nodded slightly without paying attention, and flew towards Wanda quickly. But Li Wei turned around slowly and stretched out his hand by the way. His goal, definitely Quicksilver. Come on, boy, let's compare. Speed. Li Wei reached the top of Quicksilver and Tim in an instant, almost before even a moment of inspiration. Li Wei had already reached the battlefield. Below, Robin, who was injected with super soldier serum, was completely abused by Quicksilver. Yes, it is not an opponent at all. Quicksilver is like teasing his opponent, using speed to completely crush the opponent. Even if Tim's strength is very strong and his reaction is quick, he is still not Quicksilver's opponent. Tim, leave it to me. Li Wei spoke condescendingly, startling Quicksilver, who was teasing. Because he didn't notice that there was someone on it. Chapter 63, The Flash's Quicksilver. Master. Tim looked at Li Wei with some gasps, slightly embarrassed. He was so embarrassed just now. In fact, if Quicksilver's speed is not so abnormal, Tim will still be easy to beat him. There is only one biggest advantage of Quicksilver, and that is speed. Then, it was the abnormal speed that caused Tim a big loss. Although his injuries are not too serious now, he is bruised all over his body. Get out. Li Wei waved to Tim and looked at the silver-haired boy in blue clothes with interest. Well, it's handsome, I'm almost catching up with myself. Ah, another one to die. Quicksilver looked at Li Wei in unison. Li Wei laughed, I heard that you are fast. Not very fast, yes, very fast. It is absolutely necessary for Quicksilver to correct this guy's tone. His speed has always been his proud advantage. Even in the face of his sister Scarlet Witch Wanda, he can be so confident. Is it? Li Wei smiled slightly, the superb power in his body began to derive. Yes. If you don't believe me, I'll let you see it. Quicksilver smiled evilly. Before the next word was finished, his body had turned into a blue light, and he came to Li Wei in an instant. With a punch, he slammed into his body. He hates someone talking to him in this tone, and he hates someone standing on top of his head. Therefore, he took the lead in launching an attack on Li Wei. In his opinion, the thin-skinned guy in front of him would be as vulnerable as the big guy. Boom. There was a roar in the air, seeing that my fist was about to hit the nasty guy in front of me, but... Roar. The sound of the fist hitting empty made Quicksilver's body almost ran after it, and fell directly from the air. Then he realized that his punch was actually empty. What? Quicksilver turned around abruptly, and Li Wei's indifferent voice came from the place where he was hitting behind him. Are you looking for me? Quicksilver looked back again in disbelief, but saw Li Wei's extremely flat face, with a smile on his face, but it seemed to be mocking his speed. He stood there as though he hadn't moved. It's just that Quicksilver didn't reach it. Ha ha ha. Robin Tim, who was on the side, saw everything in his eyes. Although he was a little shocked by the speed of his young master, he didn't think much about it. In his opinion, the kid who gave him the shock of speed was used by his young master. The same way is over there. Are you looking for death? Quicksilver was a little angry. Li Wei's behavior angered him. He originally wanted to play a cat-and-mouse game with Li Wei, but he didn't expect that he turned out to be the mocked mouse. Come again, let me see your speed. Li Wei's smile was still hanging, and he looked straight at Quicksilver just that way. Bright. Quicksilver flashed again. This time, he used his extreme distance. The blue light swept to the extreme. At a speed of 800,000 kilometers per hour, he rushed towards Li Wei. Almost for a moment, Quicksilver's angry fists had already hit Li Wei's body. Die to me. Quicksilver's roar, mixed with his blue light, instantly blasted towards Li Wei. The air seemed to be swept by his speed, and there was a fierce howl of anger. Really, it's a pity, you still didn't hit me. Bright. Li Wei's figure flickered again, and the voice rang out involuntarily. Quicksilver broke his phantom with a punch, and the inertia made Quicksilver rush out into the air for several tens of meters before it came to a standstill. But Li Wei's body is always hanging behind Quicksilver. No more, no less, exactly 1 meter away. Quicksilver looked back in disbelief. He really didn't want to believe it. In terms of speed, he is unwilling to admit that someone is faster than him. No one in this world is faster than him. So he felt that Li Wei must have used some illusion technique. What is your ability? Quicksilver's face was a little livid, his eyes looked straight at Li Wei, and there was even flames in his eyes. The feeling of not hitting the enemy so often is really fucking. Really a poor child. 0, look for flowers. Li Wei shook his head. This is the same ability as you. Impossible. How could Quicksilver believe that Li Wei defeated him with speed, which is more sad than hitting him in the face? You don't seem to believe it yet. Li Wei said to himself, and then nodded slightly. Okay, then in order to make you believe, I have to let you be a little frustrated. What? Just after the word was finished, Li Wei's figure appeared in front of Quicksilver. Quicksilver didn't even have time to react. Li Wei's body was almost close to Quicksilver, as if appearing out of thin air. There was no buffer at all. Appeared just like that instantly. Robin Tim on the side rubbed his eyes in disbelief. He thought he had hallucinations, why the two people who had been far away had directly collided together. Quicksilver was also shocked by the speed that Li Wei suddenly showed. Teleport. This guy seemed to be able to reach him in an instant. Do not. Quicksilver retreated quickly, but Li Wei was always close to him, making Quicksilver feel a little creepy. Too frightening. Like maggots attached to the bones, it makes people shudder. How did this guy do it? Quicksilver's mind is a little blank. He has used his fastest speed, but still has not escaped the shadow behind him. The shadow seemed to be stuck on himself, so he couldn't get rid of it. Even if the speed has risen to its limit. The feeling of being in the shadows, but for the first time Quicksilver felt a touch of despair. My own speed, it doesn't work at all. How can it be? Quicksilver collapsed a bit, and his confidence in his speed was completely collapsed at this moment. It's useless, no matter how you fly, you can't escape from my palm. Because your speed is really too slow. Boom. Li Wei shot and punched Quicksilver in the back. Ding. Chapter 64, You know nothing about my speed. Rumble. Quicksilver entered the snowdrift as a dog eating shit, just like when he attacked Tim in the first place. Use. Li Wei stood there on the volley, watching Quicksilver rising from the snowdrift. With a trace of unwillingness on his face, this guy looked up at Li Wei. The words Li Wei just said stimulated him. Too slow. He had never heard of such insulting words in his life. This is already a trampling on his personality. After all, speed has always been his proud strength. Snapped. Robin on the side was a Quicksilver subdued. This guy was constantly twisting there, but he lost his speed advantage and was obviously not Robin's opponent. Be honest. Robin was bullied by this kid just now. Now there is a chance for revenge. How can he let it go easily? You let this guy stay away from me. Quicksilver's 49-7 was a little scared. This brawny man had just teased him many times. For fear of angering the other party, he killed himself directly. Now that you are afraid. Li Wei smiled and looked at Quicksilver condescendingly and said, well, let me ask you a question, and if the answer is correct, I will let you go. Li Wei was not stingy enough to care about with a child, and said with a smile, you and Wanda, are you brother or sister? I am. I was born 12 minutes before her. Quicksilver retorted loudly, glaring at Li Wei, can you let go now? Definitely. Li Wei nodded slightly and waved to Robin, indicating that he could let go of Quicksilver. On the contrary, Quicksilver looked unbelievable. He is not really stupid. The reason why he was a rascal just now was entirely because he did not expect to be caught for a while, and he did so with his age instinct. However, he had never thought about the other party, and he would really let him go. Thanks. Quicksilver rubbed his wrists, looked at Li Wei a little strangely, but suddenly smiled, but, you got the trick. In the next moment, Quicksilver's figure turned into a blue light flashed, and disappeared in place instantly. Just as Li Wei looked towards the distant shadow of the blue light, there was a sudden gust of wind behind him. Sneak attack. This kid, unexpectedly attacked himself. Boom. A fist hits Li Wei's head during high-speed movement. If an ordinary person is hit by this punch, I am afraid that the whole person's brain will be beaten out. However, Li Wei is no ordinary person. He only stretched out his hand slowly, and then unmistakably grabbed the fist that was struck by Quicksilver. Wow. He slammed over his shoulders and took Quicksilver directly into the snow again. From the side, Robin reacted, and hurriedly leaned forward and hugged Quicksilver tightly. Boy, are you looking for death? Can you avoid my supersonic fist? Quicksilver stared at Li Wei incredibly, with a face full of disbelief. Avoid your fist? Is it difficult? Quicksilver didn't even know that the opponent in front of him had even surpassed the speed. Although there is no way to travel through time and space, but because of the blessing of superpower, Li Wei got a new ability. As long as the speed is not as fast as him, then he can fully see the opponent's movements. Really do it, unexplored prophet. And Quicksilver, no matter it is now or in the future, it is impossible to reach the speed of light. Supersonic speed or something is already his limit. You are too slow indeed. Li Wei emphasized again, yes, it's too slow. Li Wei is qualified to say this sentence. In front of the Flash, no one dares to applaud. 800,000 kilometers per hour. This is the limit speed of Quicksilver. But even so, it is incomparable with the Flash at all. This speed can't even catch up with the Flash. No, tens of thousands of backs can't catch up. One is the hour and the other is the second. How does this compare? There is no comparison at all. This is like the difference between supersonic and superluminal. The speed of Quicksilver is very fast, but it is also relative. Just like Bolt is the fastest man, but compared with the cheetah, he is simply weak. The current Li Wei is the fastest in the universe, and Quicksilver is, at best, the fastest on the Earth. How does this compare? Too bully. You lie. Quicksilver roared, feeling a big blow to his pride. It is more serious than 10,000 splash damage. I don't have to deceive you. Li Wei once again came to Quicksilver's face. It was an extremely sudden teleportation, but Quicksilver stretched out his hand and blasted Li Wei with a punch. Ring. His fist stretched out, but it was only a few centimeters away from Li Wei's head, but it was firmly imprisoned by a powerful palm zero. It clamped his wrist tightly like iron tongs, tightened it tightly, and couldn't break free at all. Ah! Dash! Quicksilver yelled suddenly. Feeling the pain, Quicksilver's face finally changed. It was obviously a supersonic punch, but he could still be caught. He didn't even see how Li Wei made his move just now. His fist was locked tightly by the opponent. The strength from his arm made him feel that his hand was about to be squeezed off. Quick, let go. Quicksilver waved another fist in anger, and hit Li Wei's head. Although he is Quicksilver, he can run faster than the speed of sound. But the premise is that he has enough freedom. He is controlled by Li Wei as he is now, and he can't run away at all. In fact, it's not that he can't take people to run with him. He can run to supersonic speed, and then take advantage of his characteristic that he won't be injured by air friction, take himself with a person running at supersonic speed, and burn it into ashes with air friction. However, now he can't. He tried it, and he couldn't run at all. Even the speed of the person in front of him is fast enough to hold his fist while running at high speed. Just like just now. Gudong. Unsurprisingly, his attack failed again, and Li Wei's other hand was also tightly grasped by his wrist. This is not a kid's fight. How can 1.2 if you tell me to let go, I will let you go. What's more, I've been fooled just now. Li Wei looked speechlessly at Quicksilver, who looked like a child to be a rascal. Although his grade was indeed only equivalent to a high school student, it was an age that could be depended on. However, this is a life and death fight. I care about you. Hurry up and let go. Quicksilver, who was caught, did not have the consciousness of being a prisoner at all. Instead, he looked at Li Wei angrily and glared at him. It seems that you still don't give up. In this case, I will let you feel the real speed, right? You don't know anything about my speed. Boom. At the moment when Li Wei's voice fell, a red and blue light suddenly enveloped the two of them, and then soared towards the sky and straight up, not knowing how many times faster than the arrow. Chapter 65, Wonder Woman vs. Scarlet Witch. Oh, my God. Robin opened his mouth and eyes widened, staring at the red and blue light that disappeared from his eyes. This is the speed of the young master. In a flash, it will be gone. Faster than the rockets. Taste. The next second, he saw Li Wei standing in front of him again. What's the situation? Master didn't leave. What was the soaring sky just now? Robin thought he was dazzled, rubbed his eyes and found that Li Wei had disappeared again. Robin's expression was extremely broken. But Li Wei, with Quicksilver, quickly revolved around the earth. Go round and round, tirelessly. Definitely, there is not much time, just a few seconds. But for Quicksilver, it's as long as centuries. Wow. Quicksilver only felt that the scene in front of him was moving fast. This feeling was faster than him running at full strength. I don't know how many times faster. However, he can clearly see countless scenes. He was completely wrapped in superpower, and he could see the buildings, sea and sky in front of him clearly. Everyone is still there, and the dolphins jumping out of the sea freeze directly, the planes in the world seem to be suspended there, everything, only the two of them are flying, and the others are all in a stopped state. Although it was an instant, he could see clearly that this relative time was still, making his expression extremely frightened. Then, it was another kind of excitement. Wow. How did you do that? Great, is this your limit speed? Completely still. My God, it's totally still. Quicksilver is constantly screaming like a child. In fact, Li Wei has taken Quicksilver and shuttled hundreds of times around the earth. Use. Finally, Li Wei carried Quicksilver and returned to Robin again. Robin didn't believe it and made a move with Li Wei. Roar, Master, is that you? Li Wei nodded, but Quicksilver struggled with a face. Hey, you, how fast are you? can you make things completely still? This is simply what Quicksilver can't imagine. How fast do you think I am? Li Wei looked at Quicksilver jokingly. Quicksilver didn't even think about it, and blurted out, the speed of light, the speed you just showed, should be the speed of light. When I think of the other party being the speed of light, Quicksilver feels a little envious. After all, he was only at supersonic speed, and he was still 1,000 miles away from the speed of light. The speed of light? Li Wei squinted his eyes and grinned. What is the speed of light? Can the speed of light make everything stand still? Quicksilver's mouth opened suddenly. Difficult. Is it faster than the speed of light? Hey, my God, what speed is this? Quicksilver can't imagine it. This super speed of light has exceeded his cognition. He is still working hard to move closer to the speed of light, but the speed of the person in front of him has already surpassed the speed of light. What kind of gap is this? Quicksilver. For the first time, I felt that I was looking for death by opposing the person in front of me. Between the two people, the speed of light is infinitely different, let alone strength. That. Then you just took me around the earth. How many times did you turn around? Quicksilver asked expectantly. Not much, more than 700 laps. Li Wei said subconsciously, but Robin on the side heard in his ears, how much more? More than 700 laps. In just a few seconds, the young master took this guy and circled the earth more than 700 times. Tim felt that he must be dreaming. Hasn't the dream been woken up yet? How can anyone have such a speed? 700 more, Grace. Quicksilver nodded thoughtfully. It seems that you are indeed faster than the speed of light. Master really took you more than 700 laps around the earth. Robin on the side couldn't help asking, but Li Wei glanced at this guy. Why, do you want to try it too? Late, no, forgive me. I believe it, Master, I really believe it. Robin hurriedly waved his hand, and retreated subconsciously. Well, it's time to see your sister. No, sister. Li Wei said to the Quicksilver on the side. Quicksilver held his head up and tried to argue. No, it's my sister. She is my sister. I was 12 minutes earlier than him. Can. Really? Li Wei smiled, but how did I hear that she was 30 seconds earlier than you? No, you must have heard it wrong. Quicksilver's eyes were a little evasive, but inside he was cursing that it was the bastard who exposed his information. In fact, in the original book, Scarlet Witch Wanda, indeed Quicksilver's sister, was born 30 seconds earlier than him. 12 minutes or something, it's too nonsense. Li Wei is fake when he hears it. Shit. Li Wei brought Quicksilver and Robin to the battlefield of Scarlet Witch and Wonder Woman in an instant. Although he just played a bit long with Quicksilver, in fact, only a few minutes passed, yes, a few minutes duel. After all, Quicksilver and Li Wei are too fast. 497. The PK between them is calculated in seconds. Therefore, Scarlet Witch and Wonder Woman have just started fighting. Ah. Li Wei stood in the sky, but Lu Wei felt a little different about the scene in front of him. Wonder Woman is actually at a disadvantage. She was crushed and beaten by Scarlet Witch. Hey, is this your subordinate? Doesn't it seem to be great? Quicksilver was whistling in Li Wei's ear. In the next second, he noticed a golden rope, which suddenly thought him strong. Quicksilver was firmly trapped by the mantra lasso. This kind of noisy guy, Li Wei will never be polite to him. Diana, you despise your opponent a bit. Li Wei sighed. In fact, how could Scarlet Witch be Wonder Woman's opponent? But right now, Scarlet Witch's hands were flashing a weird red light, and Wonder Woman suddenly couldn't get close at all. On the contrary, she just rushed over with divine power, but the scene in front of her suddenly changed. Scarlet Witch uses the terrain and constantly changes her attacks. After all, she is a magician. And Wonder Woman is a warrior. Above the expanded distance, Magician has an inherent advantage. Chapter 66, Wanda Jianga Maximov, Am I Right? Boom. Wonder Woman, who had just split the rock with the sword of Vulcan, returned without success. Scarlet Witch used the terrain to block Diana's attack once again. According to the ability of Scarlet Witch in the original work, the Wonder Woman in front of me is indeed not its opponent. This is a pretty devil magician. Terrible is not enough to describe her. Her ability is not completely controlled by her own consciousness, and can be used even after she loses consciousness. Not only that, Sorcerer Supreme and Professor X worked together and couldn't restrain Scarlet Witch's ability. She can even create an army out of thin air, or resurrect mutant from another dimension. In other words, there is no limit to her ability, change reality at will, and the result is permanent. She can eliminate the illusory entity she created in a single thought, as well as the mutant genes left by the gods in 98% of mutants on Earth. Wanda's magic, in the original book, has been so complicated that the magic originally and reality are integrated together. If she wants to solve the curse, it will cause reality to burst together. Her magic can even affect the parallel world, from which it can be inferred, she has enough ability to influence multi-universe, which is beyond the reach of most single-universe gods. In addition, in the later period of Marvel, Wanda's performance was even more against the sky. She stripped all the abilities of the super ability on the Earth. Yes, you read it right, it is all the super ability. Including Sorcerer Supreme's magical ability, the Fantastic Four who obtains ability based on cosmic ray irradiation, various ability of mutant, the Captain of the United States who obtains ability through serum, the Hulk who obtains ability through gamma ray irradiation, and even the Skuru on the Earth and all the alien races on the Moon, including the Black Bat King. In a single thought, everything is destroyed. To describe it in 4 words, that is terrible. In the movie, the power of Scarlet Witch is not shown at all, nor the ultimate of origin magic power and ability of modification probability. You know, her ability is origin magic power and modification probability. Origin magic power, one of the most powerful magic in Marvel, can create and annihilate matter. The variant ability, which modifies the probability, can ignite objects at will, fill or eliminate air in a specific space, twist everything, make high-speed flight bullets stand still, open doors, detonate objects, create an energy field, deflect magic attacks, accelerate or slow down substances corruption, floating objects, etc. All probabilities can be modified by her. This sounds a bit abnormal. But she is more perverted, not the above two, but the combination of origin magic power and modification probability. Once the two are integrated, the effect of alter reality can be achieved. What is alter reality? That is, she can rewrite the life and death of everyone, control everything in the world, let you live as life, let you die as death. It is a bug that is more than creating everything and destroying everything. So, the character in the later period of Marvel, Quant is not a person. Definitely, now Scarlet Witch, only 16 or 7 years old, is obviously not as strong as that. At best, it can only change everything in a small area, such as now, she is controlling the terrain in front of her. But her potential is limitless, belonging to the kind with no upper limit. Rumble. Scarlet Witch controls the terrain, and the gravel is constantly blasting towards Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was obviously annoyed by Scarlet Witch, crossing her arms, instantly using her supernatural power. Yo! Countless sand and gravel smashed down the Scarlet Witch at a speed that was difficult to distinguish with the naked eye. The red light appeared in Scarlet Witch's hands again, her eyes were also shining with red light, and her handsome face looked a little hideous. She roared, and with her own strength, she resisted this Wonder Woman's attack firmly. But Diana obviously won't make her so easy. Shit. As the body flickered, the Vulcan sword had taken her extreme anger, and slashed down towards the red barrier in front of Scarlet Witch. Cut. Carrying a sword of Diana's supernatural power, it instantly tore the energy of Scarlet Witch. Seeing that the sword light was about to hit Scarlet Witch's body, there was a red light flashing in Scarlet Witch's eyes. In his hand, 2 red colors also appeared. Origin magic power. Wonder Woman's Vulcan sword just couldn't cut it down. Hong Mang held the long sword firmly, and then Scarlet Witch roared, and his body flew backwards in an instant. Boom. Diana's Vulcan sword slashed into the ground where Scarlet Witch was originally. Roar taste, roar taste. Scarlet Witch, who was lucky enough to escape, stood there, looking at Wonder Woman not far away, panting violently. Wow. Diana drew the Vulcan sword from the ground, and stared at the opponent in front of her without blinking. This woman was much more powerful than she had imagined. This is regarded as the strongest enemy she has encountered since she came to the Earth. The people before him are not her all-in-one generals. Sister, save me. At the moment Scarlet Witch and Wonder Woman were fighting each other with their swords drawn, there was a sound of no morals, but it suddenly remembered in the sky above the battlefield. The Tide Quicksilver yelled loudly. As soon as he was about to continue, he was directly covered by Li Wei. Scarlet Witch looked up and saw his brother Quicksilver, who was tied up there, and a young man suspended in the air. The man was looking at her with interest, showing a weird smile. Scarlet Witch's face changed instantly. When did this person get here? She actually didn't feel a Mano Zhao point. Boss. Wonder Woman shouted at Li Wei. Scarlet Witch's pupils contracted slightly again. Boss. This person is the master of the female warrior in front of me. Hey, let me come. Li Wei waved to Wonder Woman, but Diana frowned slightly. Boss, I can beat her to find. I know you can win, but this time I want to make it myself. Look at this guy. Snapped. Li Wei raised the Tide Quicksilver in front of Wonder Woman. Don't let him run away, this kid is very fast. Robin, go help Shield and blast me through the castle. After speaking, Li Wei landed abruptly and came to Scarlet Witch. Wanda Jianga Maximov, am I right? Chapter 67, Gemini, go off. Who are you? Scarlet Witch. Wanda frowned, looking at the men who appeared in front of him. The men had a smile on his face, as if he hadn't put the next battle in his eyes at all, which made Wanda's heart sink. Unless he is full of absolute confidence in his own strength, otherwise, it is impossible for him to be like this. She is quite clear about the strength of her younger brother. With the advantage of speed, ordinary people, let alone defeating him, can cause a little damage to him, which is already pretty good. As for the speed to catch up with him, it seemed like a joke to Wanda. No one is faster than his younger brother. This is what Wanda has always known. But now, her brother not only failed, but what made her even more unacceptable was that Quicksilver was captured alive. Captured alive. This was a word that Scarlet Witch could never imagine, but it appeared in his younger brother's body. Even if his younger brother was invincible, he could not escape. How can this be? Scarlet Witch stared at Li Wei, but Li Wei shrugged. You will know 497 my name, but not now. Now, let me see your ability. Li Wei smiled at Scarlet Witch. This superhero, who is seriously underestimated in Marvel, has the face of Baija and a tall figure. The exquisite curve is hidden by the red coat on her body, but it can't cover it at all. On the contrary, it seems more and more seductive. Mysterious and provocative, it gives a good impression at a glance. This is another ability of Scarlet Witch, the charm of the witch. Although she has not mastered this ability, the Magneto lineage she inherited naturally makes it full of huge amounts of lethality to men. Most people will perish if they take a look. Fortunately, Li Wei is not an ordinary person. This charm has not affected Li Wei, he is just admiring the beauty of Scarlet Witch. Watched by such an aggressive gaze, Scarlet Witch's face is a bit ugly. What? Chaos force surged all over her body, and super ability that could change the probability and rule, a huge amounts of crimson barrier, rolled towards Li Wei. The intense magical fluctuations seemed to confine the space around Li Wei. Interesting. Origin magic power, you haven't been able to control it freely, right? Li Wei felt the surging magic power around him, squeezing his whole body to death. This power can ignore all rules, just to destroy the enemy. The destruction of origin magic power. About 100 square meters. Li Wei estimated the current combat range of Scarlet Witch, and then raised his head. Can you move? Scarlet Witch was a little frightened. Then, seeing her, Li Wei was like walking in the courtyard, stepping directly out of her fighting area. Have you ever thought about joining an organization? Li Wei stood in front of Scarlet Witch in such a grand manner, making Wanda pour all over, as if it exploded. This man is terrible. His origin magic power actually didn't work for him at all. You are still too weak. When you can change the rule, you may be able to imprison me. But now, you still can't do it. Boom. Li Wei's rapid force surged, and then broke through the confinement space created by Scarlet Witch in one fell swoop, and stood in front of Scarlet Witch again. This time, Scarlet Witch was finally moved. The moment just now, it seemed like a fleeting illusion. People who don't know absolutely think they are dazzled. Because from Li Wei rushed out to the end, time really happened too fast. Almost not even the blink of an eye has come. But Scarlet Witch knew that Li Wei had launched an attack. No wonder that Quicksilver is not his opponent, he is actually faster than Pietro. Scarlet Witch made an analysis in an instant. Just now Li Wei just hit it lightly, but it was enough for Scarlet Witch to see a lot of things. Roar. Wanda Roar let out a sigh, his face turned pale. Li Wei in front of her, she is not an opponent at all. What many mutants fear most is getting close, including Magneto. As a magician, Scarlet Witch has greater weakness than other mutants. Being close is almost her fatal flaw. Once she was approached in front of her, apart from activating the crimson magic power, she had no power to contend at all. And Li Wei in front of him, unfortunately, being close to him is as simple as a common meal. As long as he wants, he can reach you anytime and anywhere, ignoring any rule. It's so violent. This is the speed that the Flash bestows on Li Wei. In the face of speed, getting close is as simple as drinking water. You just need to think about who you are close to. I surrender. Scarlet Witch glanced at Quicksilver, and said weakly, his eyes a little sad. She is not from Hydra, so fighting to death is a stupid behavior for her. I can join your organization, but please let me go. Wanda looked up at Li Wei. Li Wei nodded slightly. Definitely, I think he is not afraid of him running away, but he talks too much. Ring. Li Wei suddenly stretched out his hand, and the mantra lasso returned to him in an instant. And Quicksilver finally regained freedom. Elder sister. He walked towards Wanda, but quietly whispered in her ear, this person, the speed can reach the speed of light, I am not his opponent. Super speed of light. There was an uproar in Scarlet Witch's heart. Even if she thought that Li Wei's speed was terrifying, she never thought that his speed could surpass the speed of light. So, I actually want to stay, and learn from him. How can I make my speed faster? Quicksilver quickly talked to Scarlet Witch, and Wanda only nodded slightly. Well, we should actually thank him for freeing us from that dark place. The two were chatting on their own, but Diana said to Li Wei with some worry, Boss, is this okay? Shouldn't these two men be captured? Their Amazon fighters never trust others easily. Chapter 68, I'm going to surrender. No, if she wants to completely control her ability, she can only rely on me. Li Wei does have this self-confidence. To say that Scarlet Witch can completely control his own ability in this world, it is Li Wei. After all, he has some DC artifacts that surpass Marvel. Controlling Scarlet Witch is simple. Scarlet Witch obviously listened to Li Wei's words. She narrowed her eyes and made a decision in her heart, don't worry, we don't have a place to go for the time being. It might be a good choice to join you. You are wise. Li Wei snapped his fingers, in the future, you will definitely be grateful for your choice today. But then, we must first imprison your fellow. Li Wei waved to everyone, let's go and meet Mr. Hydra, the #1 villain. Ah, yes. Li Wei suddenly seemed to have thought of something, turning his head to Scarlet Witch whose hands were slightly red, and said, spiritual illusion, it's useless to me. Scarlet Witch's face suddenly stiffened there. Including Quicksilver, it's also a strange look, this guy, how does he know his sister, and the ability to manipulate people's hearts and create illusions? I said, you guys, can't hide from me. With that said, Li Wei took a step, took Wonder Woman, and walked towards the castle. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch glanced at each other, then Scarlet Witch shook his head helplessly, I think we shouldn't take risks anymore, this guy is very strong. Just now, Scarlet Witch took advantage of Li Wei's unsuspecting time, and was ready to use psychic magic on him. But unfortunately, Li Wei saw through. This is the Flash's perception of a crisis, a function of an unknown prophet, but it can only be known for a brief moment. But this moment is actually enough for Li Wei. Just now, why didn't you pierce them? Diana also saw Scarlet Witch's unkind intentions, and looked at Li Wei a little puzzled. Li Wei smiled mysteriously, don't you think this is fun? Fun? Not at all. Diana looked at the man next to him speechlessly, only feeling that he couldn't see through him. Inside the castle. Baron Strucker, Hydra's #1 villain. At the moment staying inside the base, staring blankly at all that had just happened, he was shocked beyond words. In 5 minutes, Hydra gave high hopes to the twins, and they lost both in 5 minutes. The cameras hidden in the trees and on the walls of the old castle accurately recorded all this. At the same time, it also added a touch of despair to the surviving Hydra members in the castle. They really have nothing to do. Wanda and Pietro, the only two super ability players, were quickly defeated by the pair of men and women. Wanda still relied on origin magic power to choose for a while, and Pietro was a shame. Everyone gave him a chance, but he actually lost. What a shame. However, no matter how incompetent they are, it is useless. Fuck. These two incompetent fools. Baron Strucker yelled there without image, his whole person looked a little lost. He watched Li Wei and the Wonder Woman and his group preparing to rush into the castle. Without thinking, he was ready to retreat. But before retreating, he certainly couldn't let his men see it. This is the consciousness of being a leader. All the reserve tanks are dispatched. Hit the weak point of attacking the enemy. The offense can be uplifting. The people from the United States sent those jokers to test us, and we have to let them go. Never surrender. Never surrender. Baron Strucker roared there, and a group of brainwashed Hydra elites were all immediately inspired. Roar happily there, never surrender. Never surrender. Very good. Baron Strucker nodded, but whispered the probe to his assistant's ear, delete all files, I am going to surrender. What? His assistant looked at his boss extremely dumbfounded. If those guys get the results of our research, they will soon realize our pursuit, so, I must not die now. His assistant looked at his boss with a look of disbelief, and he never thought that he was such an unscrupulous person. Go for the nonsense that you can't die, right? You just don't want to die. However, his assistant did not point through Baron Strucker's conspiracy, but agreed, you are right, what are you going to do? I have a secret path here, you can escape. After you delete the data, follow up. After Baron Strucker finished speaking, he walked towards the secret road of Hydra base without looking back. An aggrieved assistant was left behind. This bastard escaped ahead of time. However, he was an elite who was brainwashed by HYDRA, and he could only do what his boss ordered. So he came to a computer and began to delete the research data of Hydra over the years. These things must never be available to the United States. On the other side, the fierce battle between SHIELD and Hydra is finally over. The guards of the castle persisted for a few minutes, but they were all killed by SHIELD's agent. The SHIELD agent is not without casualties. They also suffered heavy losses. Several hapless men were injured by stray bullets. It's not that Hydra's agents are not sophisticated enough, don't look at them like Wushuang mowing grass, but SHIELD's agent is also grass, they can't open Wushuang. It's just that there are two unparalleled people, Li Wei and Diana, who look after them intentionally or unintentionally, so their safety is greatly guaranteed. After all, these people are all younger brothers after Li Wei. Be cruel to the enemy, but take care of yourself a little bit. 0. Look for flowers. Those who think that they are a whole legion are fools. If the secretary is busy and the secretary is not busy, don't you understand the truth? If I could do everything by myself, I would have been exhausted a long time ago. Even if I'm not exhausted, I'm still surrounded by all kinds of cumbersome things 24 hours a day, and I don't have any spare time. Like a worker all day long, he doesn't look like a big boss at all. Monument. Robin kicked open the gate of Hydra Castle, and then rushed in first. What greeted him was another round of bullets. Fortunately, he was responsive and rolled on the spot. The remnants of Hydra hiding in the castle shot desperately there. They were terribly scared, they were fighting back when they were dying. Night, guys, stop, if you have something to say. Li Wei also saw the desperate group of desperados who remained in the castle, and had to wink at the Wonder Woman on the side. Diana shook her head helplessly. It was this kind of vegetable chopping again. Bright. She rushed in, then crossed her arms. Boom. Guardian Indu's guardian deity power directly went in and out, and then everything became silent. Silently. Including those Hydra remnants that were shot, as well as the computer screens in the scientific research base, the assistant Baron Strucker, who was deleting data, was shocked into powder by these huge amounts of divine power. The dead can't die again. However, some Hydra-based data is fixed at 89%. According to data, it has not been completely deleted. All the SHIELD agents who had just walked in were completely stunned by the scene of Wonder Woman just now. One trick, all seconds. What kind of trick is this special girl? Gaku, Gaku. A group of SHIELD agents are constantly swallowing saliva there, looking at the Wonder Woman standing there in the secret room. Their eyes have changed collectively. Is this still a human? This woman is really terrible. Well, this way, it's a lot cleaner. However, I wonder if Hydra's #1 villain is among this group of people. Li Wei muttered to himself and walked in. According to what he knew about Baron Strucker, this old guy would not coexist and die with his men. He must have escaped from the secret road. Anyone who has watched Avengers Alliance 2 knows this secret passage. Robin, you can find the secret way, and get the old guy out for me. Let me see what stocks are in this base. Li Wei waved to Robin, but he looked at the headquarters scientific research base of HYDRA. Looking up and exploring the furnishings in the base, Li Wei couldn't help but interrupt with an extremely unpleasant smell. Doing scientific research here is dark. It's simply suffering. These HYDRA guys can stay with them. Well. At this moment, a shiny screen suddenly attracted Li Wei's attention. Ding. Chapter 69, I forgot if you didn't say it. Here. Li Wei suddenly discovered that on an open computer, the data stream station was constantly running. Seeing that it was about to reach 99%, he immediately pressed the pause button. The work of data destruction was immediately suspended. Fortunately, not all have been destroyed. This group of, although the guys are not strong, but the research these years is a lot of wealth. Li Wei pressed restore, and the data suddenly began to slowly recover. This is the research data of the Hydra base, but it can be handed over to Howard and Lucius to study. There may be unexpected gains. Robin, who was looking for the secret road on the side, touched the whole house, but still did not find the trace of the secret road. The whole house seemed to be completely enclosed, and it was impossible to hide any secret doors at all. Master, Northwest Secret Road was found. Robin said helplessly. Li Wei seemed a little disappointed. 49-7, anyhow he is a smart person, why don't he even know this bit of common sense? Can HYDRA show the hidden door in the place where the human eye can see it at will? Use an infrared scanner to detect it. Ring. Several SHIELD agents immediately got the infrared scanner prepared for this battle, and immediately, the entire wall of the castle was completely hidden. Then, all the data on the wall appeared in Robin's eyes. The anomaly also suddenly appeared. Master, inside your wall on the left, an abnormal steel reinforcement layer and airflow have been detected. Robin's eyes lit up, and he pursed his lips. I hope this is where the secret door is. You are right, this should be the secret door. Boom. Robin rushed towards the wall and pushed hard. As expected, the wall loosened. Then, the wall door that could be pushed in a flash appeared in everyone's eyes. Everyone including the agent of SHIELD, their eyes lit up suddenly. Walk into. Robin called Roar, and then SHIELD's agents all filed in and stepped inside the secret door. Let's follow too. Li Wei called Roar towards Diana and Scarlet Witch, walked at the very end, and stepped into the secret door. Step. Step. The sound of leather shoes stepping on the floor was exceptionally loud, and a somewhat desperate Baron Strucker realized that he was surrounded by others. He did not escape. He was handling his escaped property and some research materials in the secret room, but a strongman directly blasted through the door of his secret room. Baron Strucker, dressed in white and wearing gold glasses, looks like a researcher. If you don't pay attention, and you really treat him as a researcher, then he will be fooled. However, Li Wei did his homework before he came. Ming, Mr. Struck, when did you become an astrophysicist? Li Wei reached out and picked up the logo on Straker's white coat, with a playful smile on his face. You have admitted the wrong person. Struck looked horrified and tremblingly said, my name is Sam Alexander. Sam Alexander. Ha ha ha, admitted the wrong person. No. Li Wei smiled and shook his head slightly. Baron Strucker, we are all smart people, aren't we? Whether you are Baron Strucker or not, I say you are, understand? Struck was silent for a while, slowly taking off his white coat, and raised his head to look at Li Wei. Why do you have to target me? Pierce has been killed by you, isn't it? Or you want to be a righteous partner, want to eliminate Hydra and contribute to the world? Don't be funny, you are a capitalist, aren't you? And I. Strake has not given up his desire to survive until now. Even with so many people around, he still said in a confused tone, pointing to himself, the only leader of Hydra now, I can create enough benefits and wealth for you. You should know that we at Hydra have been doing secret research and have some technologies that you can't even imagine. If you don't tell me, I forgot it. Li Wei smiled and interrupted Baron Strucker's words. In the look of this guy's expectation, his face turned coldly and said, I just killed Pierce, so why are you targeting me again? What? You really want to kill me? Li Wei's face suddenly turned pale, the word ah, almost directly yelled out. The heat in his mouth even sprayed onto Baron Strucker's face. Straker's expression suddenly solidified. This guy tried to defend something, but Li Wei interrupted his words instantly. You sent a winter soldier to assassinate me. I can't help but accept such a gift. So, you deserve it. Li Wei shook his head, looked up and down Strucker, and finally patted him on the shoulder, looked at him with pity, and said regretfully, It's a pity, Mr. Baron Strucker, you made the wrong choice. Since you gave, I gave a big gift. I am a person who pays attention to courtesy. Today, I made a special trip to return the gift for you. Bright. Li Wei yanked a pistol out of his arms, and then pointed it at Strack's temple. Before he could react, he pulled the trigger of the Desert Eagle. Boom. The bullet gushed out of the muzzle, and instantly pierced Strack's skull. You. Baron Strucker only said this one word, and he just hung up. He couldn't believe it, the other party didn't put him in his eyes at all, and shot him if he didn't agree with him. Simply can't believe it. Sigh. The blood mixed with brain plasma, sprayed out from the other side. It happened to be sprayed on a white coat on the side. The red blood mixed with the color of the brain plasma, sprayed on the white coat, looked particularly clear and obvious. And Baron Strucker, the dignified Hydra villain number 1, did not expect to die in this way. He never thought that Li Wei would shoot directly. Yes, Li Wei shot him directly. There is no nonsense and wordy. This kind of person is not worth his wasting a bit of tongue. He provokes 1.2 himself and must be conscious of being killed. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch behind Li Wei watched this scene, but their hearts trembled for no reason. Fortunately, they didn't offend Li Wei completely, otherwise, the end of the game is probably no better than Baron Strucker. Okay, close the team. Li Wei retracted the pistol and said lightly, put everything that can be moved on the plane, and everything that can't be moved is smashed. Prepare gasoline and burn out the fire here. No, Master, come and see, God, guess what I saw. Robin walked over incoherently, pointing to the underground of the secret room, his whole person a little excited. Ah. Li Wei squinted slightly, and then suddenly remembered. There is indeed a big guy in Hydra's scientific research base. This stuff, but a good thing. Chapter 70, An Unexpected Gain. Steel Dragon. A steel dragon made of steel runs across the entire basement and is almost 10 meters long. The dragon scales spread their wings, and they are truly majestic. However, it is a semi-finished product. Oh my God. What is this? Steel Dragon. The SHIELD agents were all stunned, and even Diana and Scarlet Witch had a strange look in their eyes. Everyone did not expect that under the Hydra base, there is actually such a behemoth buried. What if this thing can be driven and driven? No one dared to think about it anymore, and fortunately, Hydra has not succeeded in developing this thing, otherwise the battle this time will obviously be horrible. Sure enough, it's the same story as the movie. I just didn't expect that these guys will start to study this stuff now. Li Wei looked at the steel dragon hung there in midair, and his whole body exuded a stunning dark luster. And in this luster, countless wires are entangled in it, and the sensors emit a shimmering red light. Artificial intelligence. Li Wei went down the wire and saw a computer at work, as well as 08 prototypes of iron and steel machines without sameness. This base is like a steel fortress. The body of a steel robot can be seen everywhere. Adamantium, these are all made with adamantium. Scarlet Witch exclaimed from the side that adamantium is a metal with the same name as vibranium. Wolverine's body is implanted in this superalloy, so it has indestructible qualities. In terms of hardness, it is even stronger than vibranium, the material on the Captain America shield. This is a very well-known metal in X-Men. I didn't expect the Hydra guys to have such a good thing. Li Wei is also a bit different, but thinking of the plot of Avengers 2, Ultron era in his mind, it seems, Chuang is built with adamantium. N. Li Wei's gaze swept toward the center of the base. Give me the infrared detector. What? Infrared rays hit the ground, revealing a strange pattern. Sure enough, these guys are really crazy. A drive was buried underground. As in the movie, this is a gear engine buried in the location. If you have energy, you can even lift the land below it directly into the air. In the movie, Ultron relied on this gear engine to directly lift the city of Sokovia into the air, which then led to a series of subsequent events. Unexpectedly, this group of guys started to decorate so early. Super Advanced Robot Artificial Intelligence Robot Army. Li Wei couldn't help taking a breath. It felt like a weak HYDRA. He didn't expect to hide such a deep conspiracy. Fortunately, it's almost completely destroyed now. Li Wei Roar let out a sigh of relief. If these guys complete the idea of a super robot, and then lift the ground under the ground into the sky, so as to reproduce the conspiracy of the extinction of dinosaurs and the impact of the small planet on the Earth, then this world will definitely be destroyed. At once. I'm afraid the hooligans are educated. Such crazy plans can be imagined, these guys, it's terrible. Before, I underestimated them. Li Wei looked at the secrets of this secret basement and felt a little grateful. If it weren't for the early arrival, these guys still don't know what kind of impact it will have on the world. However, it belongs to me now. It's an unexpected gain. Li Wei looked at the steel dragon in front of him, as well as the rows of robots that were barely activated, and there was a touch of joy in his eyes. The results now belong to my own. Perhaps artificial intelligence can ask Howard to create a JARVIS. The Iron Man, not far away. Li Wei turned around, Yifang's Wonder Woman, obviously also thinking of Hydra's conspiracy. She looked at the engine buried in the ground, and a glimmer of cold light flashed in her eyes. The boss killed that guy with a shot. It's too cheap for him. Should he be punished? Li Wei was silent, but Baron Strucker, more about the strength in scientific research, as well as his ability to spy and brainwash, so he was killed by a single shot. Li Wei didn't even think about it. It is impossible to subdue such a mournful fellow. The extreme psychology of terrorists is quite distorted. Killing them with a single shot is the best punishment for them. Killing means contributing to society. Diana_you have broken your studies. Li Wei prolonged the tone, deliberately looking at the girl solemnly. You can even say if you shoot him. Deliver. Diana blinked her big innocent eyes and didn't understand. Is there anything wrong with this sentence? It must be because she came to the world for too short a time, so she didn't understand the deep meaning of these words. Maybe she should go to the library to check the meaning of these words, so as not to make a joke next time. But Li Wei smiled slightly when he saw the girl who was in deep thought. If you understand this network joke, it will be a ghost. Boss, how do you deal with those white coats? Robin held a cigar in his mouth, took a white coat stained with blood, and asked with some doubts. Take them all away. Li Wei thought for a while and said, Nick Fury should be used over there, and the research materials of Hydra can be better received with them. The research information is not enough if you get it, you need someone to help explain 497. If you get the information but don't understand it, it's meaningless at all. But if you want to understand the research materials, you need supporting researchers and constantly experiment. In this way, the risk of data leakage is increased. After all, those scientists are not necessarily S.H.I.E.L.D. They may also be other organizations or even spies for the United States government. In the United States, even if you are among your own people, you have to plant spies with each other. So instead of this, it is better to use these Hydra scientists directly. After all, although they are unreliable, at least they have no contact with other people in the United States. And they can be locked up completely, which will be more reliable. Clear. Robin smiled at the corner of his mouth. I will take good care of them. Well, the finishing work, I will leave it to you. Take all these things away. Don't keep one. Li Wei said to a group of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. As for the others, they are all burned. With that said, Li Wei took Diana and his party and walked out of the base. This time, the action to eradicate Hydra was a great success. Yes. 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 3 vibrating sounds came from the Batman's cell phone in his pocket, which made Li Wei's face freeze. Isn't it only the power of 2 heroes? How can it be shaken 3 times? Chapter 71, The higher the hold, the better. Hello, friends, everyone. This is the BBC. In the early hours of this morning, a fire broke out in an old castle on the outskirts of Sokoville. The fire destroyed everything here and began to spread along the forest. The police have also rushed to the scene to cut down the surrounding trees and build a barrier. The fire brigade has also arrived and is actively fighting the fire at the scene. The fire has been significantly reduced and is basically under control. In addition, this old castle belongs to the ancient Strack family in the Ying country. Shit. What do you want to do? A gentleman in a black suit looked angrily at the bald head of the black man sitting on the sofa, pointing angrily at the TV report and accusing him. This is the British Empire. No. Your behavior is going to the International Court of Justice. Mr. Baron. Nick Fury didn't care about his accusations, looked at him coldly, and said indifferently, "You know, our people are in this hotel, being watched by the police and army of your British Empire. These days, even the door did not come out. Because we are still waiting for your approval from the relevant department before we can start our action. So, you have to have evidence for your speech. What evidence do you have that we did that thing? You have to know, Mr. Baron, we can sue you for defamation like this. Maliciously sabotage the friendly relations between Britain and the United States. People like you are going to be punished for a crime of treason. They are going to the International Court. You. The poor Baroning was almost irritated by Nick Fury, but they really didn't have any evidence. They thought that by sending special agents to monitor SHIELD, they could stop their actions. But I never wanted to shoot myself in the foot because of their close surveillance. Instead, they provided sufficient alibi for these SHIELD agents. Besides, this is a good thing for you. Nick Fury's mouth turned up slightly, with a clear smile in his eyes. The HYDRA headquarters that threatened the world's security was destroyed, and the main personnel were not spared. Moreover, there may be people who have gotten those who colluded with Hydra to endanger national security. List. At that time, I think those heroes who wiped out Hydra will send a list to Ying's cabinet. Presumably, after the worms of the British Empire are removed, they will be more prosperous. The Baron was completely speechless, his face was pale, he had already thought of the consequences of this. Nick Fury's behavior is a complete threat. But by the way, they still have to eat this set. Otherwise, once Nick Fury discloses this matter, then they are all over. Don't think that they came to Nick Fury so actively to settle accounts. It's really for national security. It's a complete nonsense. It's not because they all have more or less interest in HYDRA. The destruction of Hydra affected their interests in the eyes. Ever since, they have forgotten that they were dazzled by their interests. In the current situation, they are not the masters, SHIELD is. In addition, the attitude of your country, as we have seen, is very unfriendly to us intelligence personnel who come to help your country. Nick Fury got up from the sofa, grabbed his tie and tugged, and sorted it out. We will apply to leave the country to return to China today and report your behavior to the Congress. As for you, Mr. Baron. Nick Fury walked forward slowly, and slapped the Baron's face, which was a little too pale because of shock, with his big hands. You just wait to receive the court's summons. With that, Nick Fury walked out of the room proudly. Outside, a crowd of SHIELD agents are already waiting. On the other side, the United States FBI headquarters. They have also received news that Hydra has been destroyed. Fuck. How did they do it? The current director of the FBI, William, punched the table fiercely. His face was hard to see the extreme. S.H.I.E.L.D. has just solved such a big case and wiped out the remnants of HYDRA. Are you all rubbish? Why didn't you receive it in advance? A little news. All the agents at the conference table bowed their heads and said nothing. In a few days, the whole world will know that SHIELD is better than our FBI and more capable than the CIA. At that time, the people of the United States will only know SHIELD but not the FBI. Members of Congress even proposed to disband the FBI. It's not that serious. An agent spoke in a low voice. Their FBI is also an important intelligence agency of the United States. Even if SHIELD has made a great contribution, although it will affect the status of the FBI, it is not enough to shake its status, let alone lead to the dissolution of the FBI. However, he forgot, at the moment's meeting room was silent, and no one dared to speak. So what he said in a low voice was actually heard by almost everyone. "What do you know?" William immediately glared at the agent and said angrily, "You have been fired. Who else has any other ideas?" In fact, the FBI's excessive power has long caused dissatisfaction among many people. It's just that the CIA and FBI are getting stronger and stronger, and they are doing things fairly. No one can single out the fault. Therefore, naturally no one will threaten their status. However, everyone pushed the wall down. Not to mention that SHIELD has achieved such a great work now. Once the congressmen find an opportunity, they will desperately weaken the power of the FBI. The CIA is also not immune. Why don't they take the credit down? An agent suggested in a low voice. How to press? You tell me how to press. William suddenly laughed angrily, grabbed the book on the table and threw it over. Did you suppress such a big thing? Since it can't be suppressed, let's hold it. And the other half, the deputy director John sighed helplessly, and said solemnly, hold them as high as possible. How to say? William heard what John meant. It seemed that there was something in the words, and hurriedly asked. SHIELD will threaten our position because SHIELD is an intelligence organization affiliated to the United States. Now, SHIELD has made such a great contribution, obviously it is not suitable for a certain country's situation, Manua Zhao. Organization. We not only can't suppress him, but we also have to praise him. We should promote him as high as possible, and get him out of the United States. It is best to get him under the name of the United Nations. At that time, SHIELD will become a global intelligence organization and will not conflict with our FBI. Moreover, it would be better to help them die and be the firefighter of the world than just our firefighter of the United States, right? La. William suddenly gave a weird smile. Hold it up and hold it to the position of the United Nations, so that they have nothing to do with the United States, but can only be responsible for some international affairs. Even with their FBI, there can be inextricable connections. Okay, just do it. William suddenly smiled, and immediately decided the strategy with a shot of his thigh. Everyone will act for me, and the higher the shield, the better. In order to preserve their existing rights, they can do anything. Chapter 72, Hydra's Gift. With an order from Director William, the entire FBI became busy. There is only one task they are busy with, and this task is to make the entire SHIELD a household name. Not only in the United States, but in the world. They want to let the whole world know about the existence of SHIELD, and they have also done a major event to completely wipe out the well-known Hydra. SHIELD, a great hero in destroying HYDRA. Hydra completely disappeared, thanks to a new organization, SHIELD. Exterminate the SHIELD of the Hydra organization. All reports about SHIELD have been sorted out. Pieces of positive news about SHIELD have also been featured in major newspapers throughout the United States, and even major newspapers throughout the world. The FBI of the United States really still has the ability to take advantage of it. Under their operation, SHIELD quickly let the whole world know their name. And the high levels of the entire world are also talking about the emergence of a new force that cannot be underestimated. The first is the United States. SHIELD has made such a contribution, and the United States is very happy. They are excited throughout the country, from the president to the ordinary people. They feel very happy that their safety 497 is guaranteed once again. The news have definitely reached the ears of Li Wei and Nick Fury very quickly. Boss, what do you think the FBI wants to do? What do they want to do with such a big fanfare and so much praise for us? Nick Fury is sitting in SHIELD's office, and Li Wei is sitting in front of him. Snapped. He threw the newspaper in his hand onto the table, folded his hands against his chin, his face was full of sadness. I didn't do anything, I just wanted to take our position out of the top, and then... Boom. Falling down will be miserable. Li Wei shrugged. How could he not understand what the FBI's idea was, but he didn't take this conspiracy in his eyes, but since they want to favor it, let them favor it and save our reputation. It's not a bad thing for us to hold it so high. That said, it's really not a bad thing. Nick spread his hands, but still sighed. But, boss, I am afraid that their behavior will affect our future, actions. Because our future actions may be very incredible. For example, the female soldier next to you, she has surpassed the average person. Nick Fury expressed his concern. Hearing this guy's words, Li Wei also knows that in the Marvel world, various major events in the future are endless, and they are indeed exaggerated one by one, but this is obviously not something to be considered right now. You think too much, Nick. Li Wei stood up and patted the Cyclops on the shoulder. We don't need to think about that much, we just need to raise the popularity of our shield and let the world know that we are useful. That will be more convenient for our future actions. Li Wei paused and said to Nick, your primary purpose now is to take your place and do what I arrange for you. I will take care of the rest. Well, you are the boss after all. Nick Fury curled his lips helplessly, but after thinking about it, he still felt that it made sense, so he didn't say anything. Okay, I'm leaving. This time, I will mainly retrieve those Hydra base materials and transport them to my base. Is that okay? Li Wei looked at Nick, and Nick showed a smile. Definitely, I have arranged to do it. Well, then I'm leaving. Li Wei waved his hand and disappeared at the headquarters of S.H.I.E.L.D. But Nick has packed up his clothes, he is going to go downstairs and accept the media interview. Soon, a message came from the United States. The president will award Nick Fury and personally appoint Nick Fury as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. This kind of thing Li Wei naturally made Nick accept it. Nick accepted the Hero Medal awarded by the president, which is very beneficial, because it can help this guy to completely secure the position of the S.H.I.E.L.D. director. It also allows Li Wei to get more intelligence and information, and the FBI is obviously very happy with this result, because in their opinion, their plan is obviously successful. Now the United States has given S.H.I.E.L.D. to S.H.I.E.L.D. all the things that need to be dealt with worldwide. Their FBI still has the same rights as before and has not been affected in any way. I'm really too wise. Director William was in the FB building and watched the latest news very happily. In the news, Nick with a look of honor is receiving the commendation from the President of the United States. However, William didn't have a trace of envy. He only hoped that this high-ranking S.H.I.E.L.D. could be directly smashed down, and then fell into an abyss that could never be turned over. The future belongs to our FBI. Director William wanted to think definitely, he didn't even know what kind of opponent he would face in the future. Wayne Manor. Li Wei returned to his room, poured a glass of wine, and drank it carefully, savoring the richness of the wine. Then, he turned on his Batman cell phone. Congratulations to the host for defeating Marvel superhero Quicksilver, gaining the power of heroes, and unlocking a DC hero. Congratulations to the host for defeating Marvel superhero Scarlet Witch, gaining the power of heroes, and unlocking a DC hero. Ding! Congratulations to the host for defeating HYDRA, destroying the Hydra base, completing 1% of the progress of the Marvel strategy, and getting the bonus of HYDRA. Hydra's gift. This is an ancient organization, they have many magical ancient genetic potions, and this gift can make one of their subordinates 100% loyal at random. The 3 beeps in succession made the corners of Li Wei's mouth appear a curve. The destruction of the Hydra base this time was a fruitful harvest. Not only did he get some advanced technologies in the base, such as artificial intelligence, but it also gave him 2 heroic powers and an extra gift. Li Wei definitely knows the power of heroes. But after destroying HYDRA, Marvel managed to capture 1% and got a gift, which he didn't expect. Can you randomly let one of your subordinates be 100% loyal? Is this a good gift? Bright. On the Batman mobile phone, a row of heads suddenly appeared, all of whom could enhance loyalty. Li Wei glanced around and found that it was not only Wayne Manor listed above, but also some members of S.H.I.E.L.D. Chapter 73, Unlock the Heroes One by One. Aquaman. First of all, there is a row of people who cannot increase loyalty. Steward, Alfred, absolutely loyal. Assistant, Robin Tim, absolutely loyal. Subordinates, Chief Scientist Lucius, absolutely loyal. Wonder Woman. Nick. Absolutely loyal. All of them are my own subordinates, which are displayed quite clearly. Then, there is a bunch of loyal people who can upgrade. Howard, partnership, friendship 100%. Winter Soldier Bucky, low loyalty. Scarlet Witch, average loyalty. Fast Silver, average loyalty. Looking at the few guys with insufficient loyalty above, there is a shining mark next to them. This is obviously a symbol that can be raised to 100% loyalty. Who to promote? Li Wei squinted his eyes, but there was a sudden noise behind him. Scarlet Witch. Li Wei came out. Obviously, these two siblings weren't here to engage in a sneak attack, but should have come to talk to themselves. However, Li Wei clicked next to Scarlet Witch's portrait on Batman's mobile phone. Suddenly, a line of text popped up on the screen. Congratulations, Scarlet Witch is absolutely loyal to the host. Scarlet Witch outside the door, only felt a very magical light, which suddenly appeared in my mind, and then, the feeling of Li Wei changed in an instant. Sister, knock on the door. Quicksilver urged his sister, but Scarlet Witch suddenly shook his head. Forget it, we will solve our problem. What? Quicksilver looked at his sister in an unbelievable way. How could he not believe it? Just discussed it well. Why do you give up now when you say you give up? With us, can you kill the old man? He has that kind of magical magnetic field. He was torn to pieces by his magnetic field without seeing him at all. Quicksilver is talking about their father, Magneto. I'll talk about it later, it's not now anyway. Scarlet Witch shook his head, took his brother, and walked downstairs. Li Wei in the bedroom looked at the Batman mobile phone in his hand and nodded with satisfaction. This HYDRA gift, not bad. Let's take a look. 2 heroic powers, right. I don't know which 2 heroes of DC can be unlocked this time. Li Wei stretched, then clicked the unlock button. Drop. The bat phone made a prompt sound. Congratulations to the host for unlocking the new DC hero Aquaman. Extract or summon. Seeing the word Aquaman, Li Wei's eyes couldn't help but produce an illusion, and then his heart began to become uncontrollable excitement. Aquaman Arthur Curry, also known as Aquaman. He is the illegitimate son of Atlantis, Queen of Atlantis, and Thomas Curry, the lighthouse keeper of the United States Mercy Harbor. He has half human and half Atlantean descent, and has been far beyond ordinary since childhood. The various superability of people. This guy is invincible in the sea. This is a superhero specially created for the sea. And on the land, at least they are all legendary fighters who can be close to Diana. With his power, he will definitely become stronger. Li Wei couldn't help grinning, just about to click to extract. Outside the door, footsteps came again. Li Wei frowned slightly. This was interrupted one after another, but he was quite upset. However, this person, Li Wei, is not good at losing his temper with him. Boom. 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 There was a knock on the door. Please come in. Li Wei heard the knock on the door and immediately put away the bat phone. The door was pushed open, and the person who came in was the old butler Alfred. Late, Alfred, what's the matter? Li Wei looked back. That's the master, Mr. Howard's son, Master Tony Stark is here. Alfred said respectfully, but Li Wei's expression changed. Ha 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 ha, Tony sure, Stark. Big dude shit. Li Wei wanted to laugh a little, but in front of his housekeeper, he tried his best to maintain the grace of a nobleman. Tony, the future Iron Man. This kid is finally here. A curve of Li Wei's mouth emerged, and he squeezed the Batman mobile phone in his hand. It is not in a hurry to draw heroes, and see this playboy first. Li Wei, but waited for him for a long time. This kid, but the legendary hero of the future, the giant in Marvel, and Captain America are the core figures in the future Avengers. Since it's here, I must see you. They are in the lobby. As Alfred was talking there, Li Wei nodded. Well, let's go, I'll change my clothes. 0, look for flowers. With that, the two of them walked towards the hall downstairs. Li Wei's room is upstairs, while the hall is on the first floor, standing at the top of the stairs. Li Wei saw Howard and his son, the future Iron Man, Tony Stark. This guy is not low, with unruly and indulgence on his face, wearing sunglasses, as if the world is his plaything. The furnishings in the house are being fired around. Tony, why are you here? Howard is chatting with his son who has a headache. Because of his old age, Howard loves the kid so much that he has developed his spoiled character. What is different from the movie is that Stark looks very young nowadays, even a little immature, in his teenage years, and just a boy in his 20s. He should still be studying at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology now. He is a university son. However, he was wearing a suit that was inconsistent with college students. The clothes are all big names, and ordinary people work for half a year, and they can't even afford a corner of his clothes. And the dressing style of this flower girl is also extremely embarrassing, and the accessories he wears also reflect his character and his wealth. A standard bohemian playboy appearance. Sure enough, it was exactly the same as the early stage of the movie. Those who don't know would never have thought that this kid would be the Iron Man of the future. Now he obviously doesn't possess any of Iron Man's qualities, just a playboy and little genius. Why can't I come? Tony looked very angry at what the old man said, and said with his head held up, I'm here to see what you are doing. Are you addicted to staying here, not even going home? Mom, but I said, you haven't been home for more than a month. She looks very resentful. So I'll come and have a look. Obviously, you are reluctant to think about it here. My mother's body seems to have lost its appeal to you. Tony shrugged, speaking in the voice of someone who came by. You. Howard's complexion was flushed, and he was obviously pissed off by his son. Listen, what is this kid saying? This bastard, how can you talk to me like this? J. Chapter 74, Future Iron Man. Seeing Howard, whose face was full of anger, Li Wei also secretly smiled in his heart.